Have you finished packing? Please hurry up. We're planning to renovate your room after you leave. The eldest son's wife, with a mix of impatience and excitement, urged us on. She seemed thrilled about finally making the house her own. It was clear she didn't know the half of it. I glanced at my husband, who silently signaled me to hold back, then offered a gentle smile to his brother's wife. Sorry for the delay. We'll be out by tomorrow. Since there will be workers around, it's best if you and Emily stay in your room. We're leaving behind the shared furniture and appliances. Our things are mostly just bedding and a few dressers. It shouldn't take more than 30 minutes to move everything out. The next day, the farewell was quicker than I expected. Well, we're off then. Yeah, see you. Take care, they replied without much thought or emotion. There were no apologies or thanks, no proper send-off. The eldest son and his wife simply lounged in the living room, barely acknowledging our departure. With their indifference, there was no need for us to be overly courteous either. As we silently climbed into the taxi, I couldn't help but worry about the cat we were leaving behind. Would Emily care for it properly? Would she give it the love and attention it needed? Watching our home fade into the distance through the taxi window, I suddenly had a thought. I pulled out my phone and made a call. In hindsight, this might have been my 6th call. My name is Karen. I'm 64 years old, and my husband John is a year older than me. We've been happily married for 35 years with no major conflicts. John worked for a multinational company and was usually very busy, but he always made time for the family. This year, John retired, and I was looking forward to spending more quality time together. However, it seemed I was the only one excited about his retirement. Our eldest son, Robert, and his wife, Emily, had shown dissatisfaction. They had been living with us for about a year, ever since their marriage. Emily had requested to stay with us because of the convenience of our home being close to the station for commuting and shopping. We wanted to give the newlyweds space, but were ultimately persuaded to let them stay. I never imagined it would lead to this. 2 months after John retired, I returned from shopping to hear John's angry voice from the living room. He was scolding Robert, who was slouched on the sofa. It was rare for my usually calm husband to be so furious. What's going on? I asked. John sighed deeply. Robert was rummaging through my bag and took money from my wallet. What? I was stunned. He's been short on cash after losing big at the Kentucky Derby recently. John grabbed a few bills from Robert's hand. It was definitely John's wallet, one I had given him for our 25th wedding anniversary. The presence of the wallet and the money in Robert's hand was undeniable proof. Robert, I thought you quit gambling. You promised never to do it again after that big loss. Why? Robert didn't reply. He continued watching TV, indifferent to the reprimand. He often ignored conversations that didn't interest him or involve criticism, and it seemed he truly wasn't listening. Despite my pleas, he remained unresponsive. I suspected the reason for his return to gambling was Emily. Robert had never been interested in gambling before. He was an honest office worker, never involved in criminal activities like stealing or shoplifting. So what had drastically changed him? I would undoubtedly say that meeting Emily had a significant impact on Robert. Emily was lively and energetic, and when they were introduced, I hoped she would bring out the best in my introverted son. However, I was unaware of her true nature at that time. I hadn't realized she was an avid gambler with a reckless approach to money. Your mother is speaking to you. How about acknowledging her instead of just sitting there? John's frustration was palpable as he turned off the TV. Finally, Robert spoke up. Shut up. I gave it back, so stop whining. Why are you making such a fuss over a couple of bills? I was shocked at his dismissive attitude and the small amount of cash he had taken. Dad, you've really fallen, haven't you? Well, I retired, so that's to be expected, Robert retorted dismissively. Pathetic. With that, he walked out of the living room. I tried to stop him, but John held me back. It's partly my fault for leaving my bag out, John said. Repeatedly scolding him will only make things worse. But his attitude is just too much. It's horrible. John had never flaunted his role as the family's breadwinner, but it was clear that our comfortable lifestyle was largely due to his efforts. This included supporting Robert and Emily, who not only saved on rent but also made excuses for not contributing to living expenses, which John primarily covered. Instead of showing gratitude, they insulted him. I couldn't help but feel anger, not only towards Robert but also towards Emily, who had rekindled his gambling habits. A few days later, the situation still troubled me deeply. I decided it was time to confront Emily. Robert seems to be struggling with money lately. Do you know anything about it? Oh, he lost big at the Kentucky Derby, didn't he? Emily replied casually. You knew about that? I asked, taken aback. Yeah, I invited him to go with me, she admitted. Just as I suspected, Robert had started gambling again because of Emily. Why would you do that? Robert was trying to quit. Was he? I didn't know that, Emily said with a hint of indifference. Please, Emily, don't invite Robert to gamble anymore. If this continues, it will cause problems for you too. We just do what we want with our own earnings, Emily said, shrugging. So it's not a problem. I was taken aback by her unexpected response. It was true that both Robert and Emily earned their own money and had no concerns about basic needs like food, clothing, or shelter, giving them freedom to spend as they please. But still, but you're married. You might have children someday. For your future, you should consider being more responsible with your finances. We've decided not to have kids, Emily responded. We don't want to be tied down or restricted by child-rearing responsibilities. Her response shocked me again. There was so much to process, but in a way, it made sense. Financial needs drastically change with children, and their lax money management reflected that. However, even without children, a couple should support each other. As a couple, you should help each other in tough times. Robert is struggling right now. Why don't you help him out? You're his parents. Besides, you're well off. Oh, but now you're on a pension, right? Emily asked with a hint of mockery. Well, John's company was multinational, so there isn't really a pension, I replied. That's disappointing, Emily said, her tone lacking sympathy. I thought you'd have a substantial pension, I said, surprised. No, there isn't one, Emily replied. So, please handle Robert's issues between yourselves. Honestly, supporting your living expenses is already quite a burden, and we can't afford any more. Well, that's Robert's fault for losing money. You can't blame me for that, she added, shrugging. Anyway, we can't help right now without a clear promise of support for Robert, I said, feeling frustrated as I was practically shown out of their room. A week passed, and Robert's financial troubles remained unresolved. If he was desperate enough to steal from his parents' wallets, wasn't that a sign of real desperation? Shouldn't we help him before he turns to crime? John and I discussed it repeatedly, but he insisted that this was the result of spoiling Robert. Now is the time to be tough for his future, John argued. In the end, I had to agree. At least we were providing meals in the morning and evening, and he had a commuter pass. He just needed to make it to the next payday. But our brief sense of relief was shattered by an unexpected turn of events. It was a weekend night, and after finishing dinner, we were relaxing in the living room when the doorbell rang. Ding dong. It was unusual to have visitors at this hour, so I answered the door with curiosity. To my surprise, Emily stood there, holding a cardboard box in both hands. She struggled to open the door herself. What's this about? What's in the box? I asked, taking the box from her. The rustling sound from inside made me gasp. As I opened the box, I saw a pair of eyes staring back at me. It's a cat, Emily said, looking pleased with herself. Isn't it cute? I found it abandoned on my way home. Despite her enthusiasm, the gravity of the situation hit me. I called out to the living room, John, go to the bedroom, and close the door immediately. I closed the box and handed it back to Emily. Emily, I'm sorry, but we can't keep a cat here. What? Why not? She asked, puzzled. I explained. John has a severe cat allergy. Exposure to cat saliva causes skin inflammation, and inhaling fur or dander triggers asthma-like attacks. Once, when Robert came back from a friend's house covered in cat fur, John had a severe reaction and had to be rushed to the hospital. We discussed this allergy before you moved in. So, you're saying I should just take it back out into the cold? It'll die out there. Emily's response was filled with distress. Her remark left me at a loss for words. I don't dislike cats, so telling her to put the cat back outside was something I couldn't bring myself to do. But I couldn't risk John's health either. All right, the cat can stay in your room for one night, but just one night. Tomorrow, we'll contact the animal shelter to have it taken in. The shelter can provide temporary care for the cat. Emily reluctantly agreed. I informed John and Robert about the arrangement, and we agreed that the cat would stay in their room for the night. However, things didn't go as planned. The next morning, my eldest son and his wife declared, "We've decided to keep the cat." Emily, that's not what we agreed on, I said, feeling frustrated. It's not about whether the cat is cute or not. John is allergic. If he doesn't touch it, it might be fine, but who will take care of it during the day while you're both at work? Can't you take care of it, Karen? Emily asked. I can't, I replied. That's why I'm saying no. Why are you so heartless? Emily shot back. I could only offer a helpless sigh in response. I didn't realize you were so cold, Emily said with a sharp edge in her voice. You can even help a tiny, cute cat. Do you know that shelters often end up euthanizing animals? You're just looking out for yourselves, ignoring any sacrifices needed. People like you are called old nuisances. What? I was taken aback by her harsh words. If we can't keep the cat, you should leave immediately, Emily continued. Before I could respond, Robert chimed in. It might be a good time for you to consider moving to a retirement home. You're old enough, and we have no intention of taking care of you. Besides, you're not earning anymore. That's enough. Both of you, John, who had been silently listening and was now wearing a mask and gloves due to the previous night's incident, suddenly interrupted. He kept his distance from Robert and Emily, and I felt a pang of guilt for making him uncomfortable in his own home. I can't keep a cat because of my allergy, John said. So we'll go along with your suggestion and leave. John, as Robert said, it might be time to consider a retirement home, I agreed, understanding John's intention to avoid further confrontation. To Robert and Emily, it seemed like we had given up. Their attitude shifted to one of triumph. Don't worry about the house, Robert said. We'll take good care of it, but keep all the utilities and ownership in your name. It's too much hassle to change everything. Retirement homes are expensive, Emily added. You'll need to manage that yourself. We're not helping with that. Their relief and joy at our compliance were evident. It felt like this had been Emily's plan all along, using the cat as a scheme to force us out. Over the next week, it became clear that their true nature had been revealed. As I prepared for the move, taking care of John's needs and managing the packing, Robert and Emily continued to make snide remarks. They kept the cat in their room, aware that it would be problematic if John fell ill before we left. Have you finished packing? Please hurry up. We're planning to renovate your room after you leave, Emily urged, her tone brimming with impatience. She seemed ecstatic about finally making the house her own. I glanced at John, who silently signaled me to let it go, and smiled gently at Emily. Sorry for the delay. We'll be out by tomorrow. Since there will be workers around, it's best if you and Robert stay in your room. Given that we were leaving behind the shared furniture and appliances, our belongings were mostly just bedding and a few dressers. It probably would take more than 30 minutes to move everything out. The next day, the final farewell was more straightforward than I had anticipated. Well, we're off then, I said. See you. Take care. There were no words of apology or gratitude. Without even a proper send-off, Robert and Emily simply glanced at us while lounging in the living room. Given their attitude, there was no need for us to be overly courteous. As we silently got into the taxi, I couldn't help but think about the cat they were leaving behind. Would Emily be able to take care of it properly? Would she provide the love and care it needed? As I watched our home fade into the distance through the taxi window, these thoughts weighed heavily on me. I had a sudden thought and pulled out my phone to call someone. In hindsight, it might have been my 6th call since we moved. Adjusting to life after the move had been a bit unsettling, but it was mostly comfortable. With 2 fewer housemates, everything from cooking to laundry took half the effort, and I no longer had to worry about being considerate. I finally felt like I had regained the freedom I lost before Robert and Emily got married. One night, about a week after settling in, Emily called me, and with John's approval, I answered. Emily's panicked voice blared through the receiver. Karen, what's going on? The power and gas in the house seem to be off, she exclaimed. It sounded like she had just returned home, and her distress was so great that she inadvertently switched to a video call. All I could see was the beam of a flashlight moving around in a dark room, and I couldn't make out Emily's expression. Well, I canceled the services, so it's no wonder they're off, I replied. What? What do you mean you canceled? Is this some kind of prank? Are you getting back at us for kicking you out? Emily's voice was laced with confusion and anger. Emily, calm down. Is Robert there with you? John asked gently. Emily's tone softened a bit as she replied. He just got home. Robert, seeing the dark house, was also in a mild panic. But after they calmed down, John explained the situation. The house has been sold. The buyer has been found, and the handover date is approaching, so we canceled all the utilities. We were told about this. Emily interjected, her indignation clear. How could you make such arrangements without informing us? I felt exasperated. I informed Robert about everything, the sale, the handover date, and the progress along the way. Clearly, Robert hadn't communicated any of this to you, or perhaps he didn't even remember hearing it. Given all the meetings with real estate agents and potential buyers over the past few months, the house had been quite busy. Robert and Emily were rarely home during the day, so they must have missed all the notifications. They had plenty of chances to notice, but they missed them all. I assumed you would move out right after us. Hadn't you started packing? I asked. I asked innocently, and immediately Robert and Emily began arguing. It's your fault. I didn't know. I was deceived. Watching them bicker in the dark, illuminated only by a flashlight, was oddly amusing. But once their arguments subsided, they directed their anger back at us. Even so, moving forward without your housemate's consent is too much, Emily said, her frustration evident. I don't remember agreeing to this. Oh, but I did get a response from you, I replied. I asked if it was okay to sell the house, and you said yeah, sure. Robert's response had been half-hearted, delivered while he was engrossed in watching TV, but it was still an answer. It's his fault for not paying attention, I added. Robert, momentarily speechless, then shouted defiantly, Fine. What should we do now? What do you mean, what should we do? Where are we supposed to live now? You must have arranged something for us, right? Robert demanded. John replied in a puzzled tone, Why would we arrange a place for you? We've already sold the house. You were planning to move out anyway, so we're not to blame. And since you decided to sell the house, you should consider the impact on us. Well, rental properties usually pay relocation fees, Robert argued, so give us some money. You made a lot from the sale, didn't you? A rental house, I retorted. In that case, before paying any relocation fees, you should cover the rent for the time you stayed in the house and the living expenses we've covered for you. Adding it all up, it comes to about $10,000. Can you pay that now? Robert and Emily fell silent. Given Robert's financial troubles, they likely couldn't afford it. Realizing they were at a disadvantage, Robert tried to appease us. Right, we should pay you first, but we're a bit short right now. How about we live together again? Yes, please tell us where you moved. We'll join you there. They hadn't cared about our new place when we left. I dismissed their plea. That's impossible. We can't live with a cat. Wasn't that the reason you kicked us out? We'll get rid of the cat. Just let us stay, Emily pleaded. Their selfishness was evident. It was clear to me that the cat was merely a tool to drive us out. Their words about ignoring sacrifices for comfort were turned back on them. Do you know what? You're right. You called us old nuisances, but it's you who are willing to sacrifice anything for your convenience. Emily was left speechless, tears streaming down her face. John and I no longer felt any obligation to be swayed by her tears. We've moved into a senior living community, as you suggested. It's very comfortable, and we're happy here. We can't have you join us. Don't worry about us. We'll be fine, I said, ending the call. All we heard were their sobs. They never apologized, and soon, Robert and Emily left the house. Without savings, they both declared bankruptcy and now live in public housing. We learned this from Sarah, our friendly neighbor, when we returned to clean the house. According to Sarah, Robert and Emily struggled to pack their belongings in a house without electricity and left the cat behind. Thankfully, Sarah agreed to keep an eye on the cat and ended up adopting it herself. Surprisingly, Robert and Emily did a divorce. Perhaps they're well matched. They might be hoping for John's inheritance, but since we've chosen a high-cost senior community, there won't be much left. John and I have finally achieved a truly peaceful life together. The community offers many amenities, including a gym, karaoke, and hot springs. We enjoy 3 freshly prepared meals a day and have the freedom to go out or travel as we please. Best of all, we've made many new friends here. We plan to savor this new phase of our lives, cherishing our time and new friendships.
The knock at my door comes at exactly 9:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. 3 sharp raps, then silence. When I open it, the sight nearly makes me laugh. My perfectly coiffed mother with mascara tracks down her cheeks, my father's usual pressed shirt wrinkled beyond recognition, and my brother Jonah looking like he hasn't slept in days. "We need to move home," Jonah says, his voice cracking. My name is Rosalie, and I've been waiting for this moment for 7 years. Come in, I say, stepping aside. The contrast between their dishevelled appearance and my pristine living room couldn't be more stark. I gesture to the leather sofa, the one I bought with my first bonus as senior marketing director. Rosie, sweetheart. My mother starts, using the diminutive I've asked her repeatedly to drop. We've had some difficulties. Difficulties? I keep my voice neutral, remembering the meditation techniques that got me through the past 7 years. The market crashed, Jonah blurts out. Everything's gone. The investments, the houses, even Mom and Dad's place. I sit across from them, crossing my legs. Everything? Including the land, my father adds quietly. The land. Of course, I feel a familiar tightness in my chest as I'm thrown back to that day, 7 years ago, sitting at our family's oak dining table. It's just a tax simplification, Rosie, Mom had said, sliding the papers toward me. You know your brother is better with the financial aspects. It'll still be family land. I remember how Jonah stood behind her, arms crossed, that patronizing smile on his face. Come on, sis. You know I'll take care of everything. When have I ever steered us wrong? You're just... Dad had paused, choosing his words carefully. You're not quite ready for this kind of responsibility, sweetheart. Remember that art gallery idea of yours? The memory of their synchronized head-shaking still burns. Sign here, Mom had pointed. And here. It's still our land. We're just putting it under Jonah's name to simplify things. I'd known, even then, that something wasn't right, but years of being told I was flighty, irresponsible, too emotional, it does something to a person, makes you doubt every instinct. Back in the present, I watch them squirm on my sofa. So, I say slowly, you need somewhere to stay? Just until we get back on our feet, Jonah says quickly. A few months, tops. We can use the cottage on the old property. The cottage? I raise an eyebrow. On the land I signed over? Well, yes, Mom says, waving her hand dismissively. But that was just paperwork, darling. You know it's still family land. I stand up and walk to my desk, pulling out a folder I've kept ready for years. Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about that land. What's to talk about? Jonah's voice has an edge now. It was a family decision. Funny thing about decisions, I say, opening the folder. They have consequences, Rosalie, Dad warns, using my full name for the first time in years. Don't be difficult. I lay out 3 documents on the coffee table. The first is the transfer deed I signed. The second is a loan agreement dated 1 week later, using the land as collateral. The third is a recent property record. What's this? Mom picks up the third document, squinting at it. That, I say, feeling 7 years of preparation culminating in this moment, is proof that technically none of you have any claim to that land anymore. Jonah snatches the paper from Mom. His face goes from red to white in seconds. This can't be legal. Oh, but it is. I smile, remembering all the nights I spent with Tiffany, my attorney, finding the loophole. You see, when you used the land as collateral without telling me, you triggered a clause that invalidated the original transfer. And when the bank foreclosed... I spread my hands. Well, let's just say I had first right of refusal. You're bluffing. Jonah stands up, towering over me like he used to when we were kids. But I'm not that girl anymore. Try me, I say softly. Or better yet, drive out there tomorrow. See for yourself. Mom starts crying again. Dad looks like he's aged 10 years in 10 minutes. And Jonah, well, Jonah looks exactly like I did 7 years ago when I realized what they'd done to me. You can stay at the Comfort Inn on 5th, I say, standing up. I'll cover 3 nights. That should give you time to make other arrangements. Rosalie, Mom whispers. We're family. I open my front door. Yes, you made that very clear when you had me sign those papers. Family first, right? They file out one by one, shells of their former selves. As I close the door, I hear Mom ask, "What do we do now?" I press my forehead against the cool wood and whisper, "You're about to find out." I spend the next morning documenting everything, each desperate word, every contradictory explanation. My laptop screen fills with their excuses as I type. A habit I developed after years of gaslighting taught me to trust only what's written down. The doorbell rings at 10 a.m. They're back, looking marginally more put together after a night at the hotel. Mom's even applied fresh lipstick. "We need to talk about this rationally," Dad says as they settle onto my sofa again. "You're being impulsive." I almost laugh. Impulsive? Like using inherited land as collateral without telling me? That's what we need to explain. Jonah leans forward, his business voice on, the one he used to convince elderly investors to trust him with their life savings. It was a calculated risk. The market was perfect. Nobody could have predicted. Stop. I hold up my hand. Just tell me exactly what happened, from the beginning. Mom jumps in. It started with that wonderful opportunity Jonah found. Premium real estate development. Guaranteed returns. Guaranteed, I repeat, typing. The initial investment was solid. Jonah continues. We doubled our money in 6 months, so naturally we expanded, took out more loans, bought more properties. Using the family land as collateral, I prompt. Well, yes. Dad shifts uncomfortably. But it was a sound business decision. Your brother knows what he's doing. Knew, I correct quietly. Past tense. Jonah's face darkens. Look, the market crashed. It happens, but we can rebuild. We just need somewhere to regroup, and that cottage... Tell me about the other properties, I interrupt. The ones you lost. They exchange glances. Mom speaks first. Well, there was our house, of course, and the vacation home in Lake Tahoe, the apartment buildings downtown, Dad adds, the retail space on 4th Street. All mortgaged to the hilt, I note, still typing. And the investors? Jonah's face goes pale. How do you know about the investors? I read the business section. I turn my laptop around, showing them a local news article, particularly stories about failed investment schemes that leave retirees bankrupt. It wasn't a scheme. Jonah stands up, pacing. Everything was properly registered. We just got in over our heads. Sit down, I say quietly. He does, surprisingly. Honey. Mom reaches for my hand. I pull back. We know we should have told you about using the land, but we didn't want to worry you. You were always so emotional about things. Emotional. I let the word hang there. Like when I found out you'd used my inheritance as collateral 1 week after I signed it over. You found out? Dad's voice is sharp. I had a friend at the county records office. I pull out another document. She sent me a copy the day it was filed. I've known for 7 years. The silence in the room is deafening. 7 years, Jonah whispers. You've been planning this for 7 years. Planning what? I ask innocently. I simply educated myself, learned about finance, law, business, all those things you said I was too flighty to understand. But why didn't you say anything? Mom's voice trembles. Would you have listened? I stand up, walking to my window. Or would you have told me I was being dramatic, oversensitive, paranoid? We were trying to protect you, Dad insists. I turn back to them. No, you were protecting him. I point at Jonah. Like you always have. And now look where it's got you. So this is revenge? Jonah sneers. Real mature, sis. Revenge would be pressing charges for fraud, I say calmly. This is just karma. Mom starts crying again. Please, Rosie, we have nowhere else to go. Actually, you do. I hand them each a printed sheet. I've made a list of affordable apartments in the area. There's also information about job placement services and financial counseling. Job placement? Dad looks offended. We're not charity cases. No, I agree. You're just people who need to learn what it's like to start over, like I did. Technically, Jonah says, his voice hard, you still signed that land over to me. I smile for the first time. Technically, you signed it away when you used it as collateral without my knowledge. But please, feel free to check with your lawyers. Oh, wait. I pause. They dropped you too, didn't they? They stare at me like they're seeing a stranger. Maybe they are. I have a meeting, I say, gathering my laptop. You can see yourselves out. At the door, Mom turns back. What happened to you, Rosie? Nothing happened to me, I reply. I just stopped letting you tell me who I was. As I close the door, I hear Jonah say, She's bluffing about the land. She has to be. I smile again, thinking about the construction crew starting work tomorrow. They'll find out soon enough. You found what? I remember asking Sabrina 7 years ago, my hands shaking as I held the county records printout. They used the land as collateral exactly 1 week after you signed, she'd said, her voice crackling over the phone. I'm so sorry, Rosalie. That memory floods back as I sit in Tiffany's office, watching my attorney spread documents across her desk. The afternoon sun catches her reading glasses as she points to various highlighted sections. The beauty of it, Tiffany says, is that they did all the work for us. The moment they used the property as collateral without your knowledge or consent, they violated the terms of the original transfer. But that was years ago, I say. Why didn't we act then? Tiffany smiles. Because waiting was smarter. We let them dig their own grave. Now, with the foreclosure, the property's vulnerable. And guess who's been quietly building the perfect business entity to acquire it? She slides a folder toward me. Inside is the paperwork for Harper Sanctum LLC, my new wellness retreat company. Sign here, she says, then catches herself. Sorry, bad choice of words. I laugh, but it's hollow. No, it's perfect, actually. Full circle. The pen feels heavy in my hand as I sign, not with hesitation, but with the weight of 7 years planning. Now, Tiffany continues, about that cottage they mentioned. Already handled, I say. The demolition crew starts next week. You're not wasting any time. They didn't waste any time using my inheritance as collateral, I counter. Why should I waste time turning it into something better? My phone buzzes, a text from Sabrina. Lunch? You need to tell me everything. 20 minutes later, I'm sliding into our usual booth at Carlo's Cafe, where Sabrina's already ordered my usual iced tea. Spill, she demands. How did they look when they showed up? Broken, I admit. But not sorry, just desperate. And you're sure about this retreat center idea? I pull out my tablet, showing her the renderings. Look at this. Solar-powered buildings, meditation gardens, workshop spaces. Everything I wanted to do with the art gallery they mocked me for. It's beautiful, she says softly. But what about the cottage? I finish. It's got black mold and a failing foundation. Keeping it would be a liability. That's not what I meant, and you know it. I set down my tea. They made their choices, Sabrina. For years they chose Jonah's schemes over my stability. They chose manipulation over honesty. They chose... I know what they chose, she interrupts. I was there, remember? I watched you rebuild yourself. But this is different. This is... justice, I say firmly. Is it? Or is it... The cafe door chimes and we both look up. Jonah walks in, spots me, and makes a beeline for our table. We need to talk, he says, ignoring Sabrina completely. We already did. Twice. I spoke to a lawyer. He plants his hands on our table. He says there might be grounds to challenge. Let me guess, I interrupt. He wants a retainer, money up front. I watch his face fall. That's what I thought. You can't just take everything, he hisses. Actually, I didn't take anything. You lost it. All of it. I'm just reclaiming what was mine to begin with. Sabrina clears her throat. I think you should leave, Jonah. He straightens up, trying to recover his dignity. This isn't over. Actually, it is. I pull out my phone and show him the construction company's confirmation email. Demolition starts Monday. Demolition? His face goes white. Of what? The cottage. It's a safety hazard. The whole property's being renovated for the retreat center. You're lying. Drive out there Monday morning, I suggest. Watch them tear it down. Maybe it'll help you understand how I felt 7 years ago, watching you tear apart my trust. He storms out, nearly knocking over a waitress in his haste. That was cold, Sabrina says quietly. No, I correct her. Cold was watching them smile while I signed away my inheritance. Cold was discovering they'd already planned to use it as collateral. Cold was 7 years of them thinking they got away with it. And what about you? She asks. What happens after the demolition, after the retreat center's built? Does it heal anything? I look down at my tea, watching the ice cube slowly melt. I'm not looking for healing. I'm looking for closure. Those aren't always different things, she says wisely. My phone buzzes again. An email from the permit office. Final approval for construction. It's done, I say, showing her the screen. No going back now. There never was, she replies. Not since the day they betrayed you. I stare out the cafe window, watching people pass by. Somewhere across town, my family is probably scrambling for solutions, calling in favors, realizing how many bridges Jonah has burned. Monday morning, I murmur. Everything changes Monday morning. The demolition crew arrives at dawn. I stand at the edge of the property, clipboard in hand, watching the machines roll in. The cottage looks smaller than I remember, its weathered walls almost apologetic in the early morning light. Ms. Harper? A deep voice behind me. I turn to find a tall man in a hard hat, work boots caked with mud. I'm Noel, the site supervisor. We spoke on the phone. Right, I say, shaking his offered hand. Everything ready to go? Just need your final signature. He hands me a form, studies my face as I sign. You sure about this? Old places like this, they hold a lot of memories. That's exactly why it needs to go. He nods, not pushing further. Well, we'll start with the interior strip, then. A car screeches to a halt behind us. Mom's voice rings out. Stop! You can't do this! I turn to see my parents rushing toward us, Jonah right behind them. They look like they haven't slept. This is private property, I say calmly. You're trespassing. Private property? Dad sputters. This is our family home. Was, I correct. Now it's the future site of Harper Sanctum Retreat Center. I gesture to the architectural renderings posted on a nearby board. Noel steps forward, positioning himself slightly between me and my family. Folks, this is an active construction site. You'll need to leave. She's my daughter, Mom pleads. This is just a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, I say. Noel, please proceed as planned. He signals to his crew. The machines roar to life. Wait! Jonah runs toward the cottage. 2 security guards I hired intercept him. You'll regret this, Dad shouts over the noise. You're destroying your heritage! Heritage? I laugh. Like you destroyed my inheritance? The first wall comes down with a thunderous crack. Mom screams. I don't flinch. Clear the site. Noel orders the guards. They escort my family back to their car. I watch until they drive away, then release a breath I didn't know I was holding. That was intense, Noel comments, still standing nearby. You okay? Fine. I straighten my jacket. The foundations need to be completely removed. We'll need solid ground for the new buildings. About that, he pulls out some blueprints. I had some thoughts about the meditation garden placement. Mind if I show you? We spend the next hour walking the property, Noel pointing out natural features I'd never noticed. The way the land slopes perfectly for a terraced garden, a cluster of old oaks that could shelter an outdoor yoga platform. You've really thought this through, I say, surprised. I like knowing the story behind my projects. He pauses. Helps me build something that matters. And what story do you think this is? He looks at me directly. Redemption, maybe. Or resurrection. Taking something broken and making it beautiful again. That's surprisingly poetic for a contractor. I contain multitudes. He grins. Speaking of which, want to grab coffee? These demolition days can be longer than you expect. I hesitate. I should stay and supervise. That's what you pay me for. He gestures to the crew, efficiently clearing debris. They know what they're doing. Before I can answer, my phone rings. It's Sabrina. Turn on the local news, she says without preamble. I pull up the stream on my phone. Jonah's face fills the screen, standing outside the property gates. My sister is destroying a historic family property, he's saying to a reporter. She's letting her emotions override common sense, just like she always has. Mute that, Noel says quietly. You don't need to hear it, but I keep listening as Jonah spins his tale of family discord and my supposed instability. It's the same story they've always told, just with a bigger audience. Coffee sounds good, actually, I say, shutting off the stream. I know a place. At Carlo's, away from the dust and noise, Noel asks the question I've been dreading. Why a retreat center? Because they never thought I could run anything, I admit. Every business idea I had, they shot down. Too risky, too emotional, too... me. And now? Now I'm proving them wrong. On my terms. He stirs his coffee thoughtfully. You know, I've built a lot of things for a lot of people. Most of them were running towards something. You seem to be running from something. Is there a difference? Usually is. He looks up. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a contractor who reads too much poetry. For the first time in days, I laugh genuinely. You're not what I expected. Neither are you, I'm guessing. To them, at least. He nods toward the TV above the bar, still showing Jonah's interview. My phone buzzes. Photos from the site. The cottage is completely down now, just a blank space where it once stood. Clean slate, Noel comments, looking at the pictures. Question is, what are you going to build on it? I look at him, really look at him, and feel something shift. Something true, I say finally. Something mine. He smiles. That's a good place to start. You're being hysterical, Rosie. Mom's voice echoes in my head as I sort through old family photos. Always so dramatic about everything. I'm in my home office, preparing for a meeting with my parents, one they don't know about yet. The photos tell a story they never wanted to see. Jonah front and center in every shot. Me pushed to the edges, sometimes literally cropped out. My doorbell rings. Right on time. Come in, I call out. Sabrina enters, carrying a thick manila envelope. You sure about this? She asks, setting it down. Once you show them these documents, there's no going back. They crossed that line years ago. I open the envelope, spreading out its contents. Did you find everything? Every email, every bank transfer, every hidden agreement. She points to one particular document. This one's the smoking gun, dated 3 months before they had you sign over the land. The paper outlines their entire plan, using my emotional instability as grounds to gain control of my inheritance, then leveraging it for Jonah's business ventures, all laid out in black and white in my father's meticulous handwriting. Perfect timing, I say as my phone buzzes. They're here. Mom and Dad enter cautiously, looking less polished than usual. 2 weeks of hotel living will do that. What's this about, Rosalie? Dad asks, eyeing the papers on my desk. Sit down. I gesture to the chairs. We need to talk about what really happened 7 years ago. We've been through this. Mom sighs. We were protecting you. Really? I slide the handwritten document across the desk. Is that what you call this? Dad's face goes ash white as he recognizes his own writing. Mom grabs it, scanning quickly. Where did you get this? She whispers. Turns out your perfect son wasn't so careful with his files during the bankruptcy. Sabrina speaks up. Amazing what people leave behind when they're running from creditors. You went through our private papers? Dad's voice rises. Like you went through my medical records, I counter. Using my therapy sessions after Mom's cancer scare to build a case against my stability? Mom flinches. We never. Stop lying. I slam my hand on the desk. It's all here. Every manipulation, every planned conversation, every orchestrated family meeting to convince me I couldn't handle my own inheritance. We were trying to protect me? No, you were protecting him. I pull out more documents. Here's Jonah's first failed business, covered up with my trust fund money. Here's the second one, buried under refinanced loans. Here's the email where you plan to use my emotional problems as leverage if I ever discovered the truth. Tears stream down Mom's face. Dad just stares at his own handwriting. Did you ever actually believe in me? I ask quietly. Or was I just the backup plan for when Jonah inevitably failed? You don't understand. Dad starts. I understand perfectly. I understand that you gaslit me for years, made me question my own judgment, my own memories. I understand that you chose Jonah's gambling addiction. Yes, I know about that too. Over my stability. He needed help, Mom pleads. And I didn't. When I wanted to open that art gallery, when I had actual business plans and market research, where was your help then? That was different, Dad mutters. Yes, it was, because I would have succeeded. I stand up, just like I'm succeeding now. By destroying our family? Mom asks. No, you did that. I'm just refusing to play my assigned role anymore. My phone buzzes again, a text from Noel. Foundations are clear, ready when you are. The retreat center opens in 3 months, I tell them. It's already fully booked for the first year. Turns out my emotional understanding of people makes for good business planning. Rosalie, Dad tries one last time. We can still fix this. As a family. We stopped being a family the day you decided I was a problem to manage, rather than a daughter to support. I gather the documents. These copies are yours to keep. The originals are with my lawyer. Is this blackmail? Dad asks incredulously. No, it's closure. I don't want anything from you anymore. I just want you to know that I've always known, on some level, and that I'm done letting you write my story. They sit there, defeated, clutching the evidence of their betrayal. Sabrina will show you out, I say, turning to the window. Don't contact me again unless it's through my attorney. After they leave, Sabrina returns to find me still staring out the window. You okay? No, I admit. But I will be. I pick up my phone to text Noel back. Start the next phase. It's time to build something new. The sun sets over the construction site in the distance, where tomorrow concrete will be poured into the space where my past once stood. Sometimes I'm learning. You have to break ground to break free. The local cafe buzzes with morning regulars when Jonah bursts in, making a beeline for my table. I've been expecting this. News travels fast in small towns, especially news about multi-million-dollar wellness retreats nearing completion. You're going to destroy this family, he announces loudly, drawing every eye in the place. I take a calm sip of my coffee. Pretty sure you already did that with your investment schemes. At least I was trying to build something. He slams his hands on my table. Not tear everything down out of spite. Is that what you call defrauding retirees? Building something? The cafe falls silent. Jonah's face reddens. You don't know what you're talking about, he hisses. Actually, I do. I pull out my tablet. Mr. Peterson, the retired teacher who lost his pension. Mrs. Rodriguez, who had to sell her house. Should I go on? That was business, he sputters. Sometimes investments don't pan out. Funny how none of your investments ever pan out, but you always manage to walk away unscathed. Well, until now. A man approaches our table, Mike, one of the contractors who bid on the retreat project. Sorry to interrupt, Mike says, not sounding sorry at all, but I couldn't help overhearing. You're Jonah, right? The one who offered me 10 grand to delay construction? Jonah's face goes from red to white. What? I set down my coffee. Yeah, approached me right after I submitted my bid, Mike continues. Said he'd pay cash if I found problems with the foundation work. That's why I withdrew my bid. Didn't want any part of that mess. You're lying, Jonah snaps. Got the texts to prove it. Mike pulls out his phone. Want to see them? I wave him off. No need. This is exactly what I'd expect from my brother. You think you're so perfect. Jonah sneers. Little Rosie, finally getting her revenge. This isn't revenge. I stand up slowly. This is consequences. Something you've managed to avoid your entire life. Because I was protecting our family. By stealing my inheritance? By manipulating Mom and Dad? By trying to sabotage my project? The cafe owner, Maria, steps forward. I think you should leave, sir. Stay out of this, Jonah warns. No, you stay out of this, Maria replies firmly. Rosalie's been coming here for years. She's good people. You're just making a scene. Other regulars start to stand. The morning crowd knows me. They've watched me plan this project for months, seen me work with local vendors, hire local staff. You've turned everyone against me, Jonah accuses. No, you did that all on your own. I gather my things. Just like you turned Mom and Dad's retirement into your personal gambling fund. That's not true. Here's what's true, Jonah. The retreat opens in 2 weeks. It's fully booked for a year. I've hired 30 local people, partnered with 15 local businesses, and created something that will actually help people. While we're homeless. You have options. I gave you lists of apartments, job resources, but instead of using them, you're here, trying to intimidate me in public. Because you're heartless. He spits. You don't care about family at all. My phone buzzes. A text from Noel. Gates are being installed today. Want to come see? I look back at Jonah, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not the golden boy, not the successful son, just a desperate man who never learned to stand on his own. You're right, I say quietly. I don't care about family, at least not the way you define it. Family isn't about loyalty to lies. It's not about sacrificing one child for another. And it's definitely not about what you and our parents did to me. Rosalie. I'm done. I pull out an envelope and hand it to him. This is an official notice. You, Mom, and Dad are banned from the property. Try to enter, and you'll be arrested for trespassing. You can't do this. I already did. I walk to the door, then turn back. Oh, and Jonah? The next time you try to bribe one of my contractors, make sure they don't know me first. The cafe erupts in quiet murmurs as I leave. Through the window, I see Maria pointing Jonah toward the exit. Outside, I text Noel back. On my way. Save me a spot with a good view. My phone rings. It's Mom. I decline the call and see her voicemail pop up immediately. Rosie, please. Your father's not well. This stress is killing him. We need to talk about this as a family. I delete it without listening further. They had 7 years to talk as a family. Now they can talk to my lawyers. The morning sun feels warm on my face as I drive toward the property, my property. Toward the gates that will finally, permanently, keep my past where it belongs. Behind me, they're here. Noel says quietly, touching my arm. We stand behind the newly installed security booth, watching my family's car approach the gates. The morning fog hasn't lifted yet, making the scene feel almost dreamlike. The wrought iron gates gleam despite the mist, the gold lettering catching what little sunlight breaks through. Harper Sanctum, Private Retreat, Est, by Rosalie Harper. Their car stops. For a moment, nobody moves. You don't have to do this, Noel reminds me. Security can handle it. No. I straighten my jacket. I need to see their faces. They exit the car slowly, taking in the transformation. Where a humble cottage once stood, now rises an elegant complex of modern buildings, connected by stone pathways and meditation gardens. The old oak trees frame it perfectly, just as Noel predicted they would. What? Mom's voice breaks. What have you done? Created something beautiful, I say, stepping into view. Something worthy of the land you tried to steal. Steal? Dad's face flushes. We gave you every opportunity. To do what you wanted, I interrupt. To be who you wanted. To sign what you wanted. I gesture to the retreat center. This is who I actually am. Jonah walks up to the gates, gripping the bars. This is insane. You've lost your mind. Actually, I press a button on my phone, and the fountain in the central garden springs to life. I found it. Found myself. No thanks to any of you. Please. Mom steps forward. We can still fix this. We're staying at that horrible motel. Your father's health is declining. Don't. I cut her off. Don't try to manipulate me with guilt. Not anymore. Manipulate? She looks wounded. I'm your mother. Are you? Because mothers don't gaslight their daughters. They don't use therapy sessions against them. They don't... You ungrateful little... Jonah lunges at the gate, making it rattle. Noel steps forward, hand raised. That's enough. Step back from the gate. Or what? Jonah sneers. In answer, 2 security guards emerge from the booth, hands on their radios. This is private property, I say calmly, and you've been served notice to stay away. Leave now, or they'll call the police. You can't do this! Jonah yells, his voice echoing across the grounds. You can't just take everything. I didn't take anything, I reply. I built this, with my own money, my own plans, my own vision. Everything you see here, I created it. While you were destroying people's lives with your schemes, I was building something real. Real? Dad scoffs. A retreat center. This isn't a real business. Our booking revenue says otherwise. I pull out my phone, showing them the numbers. Fully booked for a year. Wait list for the next 2 years. Local businesses fighting for partnership opportunities. They stare at the figures, faces dropping as they realize the scale of what I've built. This could have been different. I continue softly. 7 years ago, when I wanted to start small with an art gallery, you could have supported me. Instead, you convinced me I was incapable, unstable, unworthy. So, I learned. I grew. I planned. And now, I press another button. The gates begin to close automatically. Now, I don't need your approval anymore. Rosalie! Mom calls out desperately. We're your family. No. I shake my head. You're just people who share my DNA. Family doesn't do what you did to me. The gates click shut. Through the bars, I watch their faces transform. Mom's tears, Dad's anger, Jonah's hatred. You'll regret this, Jonah spits. You'll end up alone. I'm not alone. I feel Noel's steady presence behind me. Think of Sabrina's unwavering support. Remember the community that's rallied around this project. I'm just not with you anymore. Security steps forward, making it clear it's time for them to leave. They retreat to their car slowly, Mom looking back repeatedly, Dad supporting himself on Jonah's arm. As they drive away, Noel touches my shoulder. You okay? I watch their car disappear into the fog. I don't know. That's fair, he says. Want to walk the grounds? The morning mist makes everything look magical. I look up at him, this unexpected ally who became something more. Yeah. I manage a small smile. Show me those yoga platforms you were talking about. As we walk the winding paths, the sun finally breaks through, illuminating the retreat center in all its glory. My vision, made real. My inheritance reclaimed. My life finally my own. Behind us, the gates stand firm, their golden letters catching the light. Harper Sanctum. Not just a name anymore, but a promise, a sanctuary, a new beginning. And this time, I hold all the keys. The morning of Harper Sanctum's opening day, I sit in my office, watching the sunrise paint the meditation gardens in gold. A stack of letters sits on my desk, all from my family, all unopened. A knock at my door. "Ready?" Sabrina asks, poking her head in. "Almost." I pick up the letters. "Just need to do one last thing." Outside, the stone fire pit still holds embers from last night's test run. I drop the letters in, watching them catch flame. "You're not even curious what they say?" Sabrina asks. "I know what they say. More guilt, more manipulation, more—" "Actually," a voice interrupts. They say, "I'm sorry." I turn to find a woman standing there, mid-30s, familiar features that take me a moment to place. Amanda? I haven't seen my cousin since we were teenagers. "Hey, stranger." She steps forward. "Got your invitation to the opening. Bold move, sending one to the whole extended family." "I wanted them to see," I admit, "what I built." "Oh, they see." She gestures to the retreat center. "And they're talking about how you did this alone, how they were wrong. Even Aunt Penelope, your mom, she's been different." "Different how? Honest, for once? About what they did to you, about Jonah's gambling, about all of it." Amanda sits on one of the meditation benches. "Dad showed me those documents you found, the ones about their plan to take your inheritance." I sit beside her. And it made me sick, because I remembered how they treated you back then, how we all just watched it happen. The fire pit crackles, consuming the last of the letters. "I should have stood up for you," Amanda continues. "We all should have." "Why didn't you?" "Because it was easier not to. Because Jonah was so convincing. Because—" She stops. "No. No more excuses." Noel approaches with clipboard in hand. "First guests arrive in an hour. Need anything?" "Just a minute," I tell him. He nods, understanding. "You know what really got me?" Amanda says after he leaves. "That art gallery idea of yours. I found your old business plan in Dad's files. It was brilliant. Would have worked perfectly in that downtown area." "That's ancient history." "Is it? Because this place—" She gestures around. "This is that same vision, just bigger, better. You took their rejection and turned it into something extraordinary." The morning sun catches the retreat center's windows, making them gleam like mirrors. "They're not coming today, are they?" I ask quietly. "No, but not because they don't want to, because they finally understand they don't have the right." Amanda stands. "They're getting help, you know, all of them. Real help, not just throwing money at problems." "Good for them." "Good for you," she corrects, "because you forced them to face themselves. Your success here? It's not just a business triumph. It's a mirror showing them exactly who they are." Noel returns. "Sorry, but we really need to review the opening ceremony schedule." "Go," Amanda says. "Do your thing. Just keep sending those invitations, okay? Some of us are listening now." After she leaves, Noel hands me the clipboard. "Interesting conversation?" "Unexpected," I reply. "Like everything else lately." He smiles. "Speaking of unexpected," he pulls out a small package. "Early housewarming gift. Or retreat warming, I guess. Inside is a handmade sign. carved from wood. Welcome to Harper Sanctum, where healing begins. You made this. That poetry reading contractor thing isn't just for show. He shrugs. Thought it might look good by the entrance. I trace the letters with my finger. It's perfect. Like someone else I know, he says softly. Before I can respond, guests start arriving. Early birds eager to be first through the gates. I watch them enter, faces bright with anticipation. Ready to welcome them home? Noel asks. Home. Such a loaded word. But looking at my retreat center, at the gardens designed for healing, the spaces built for growth, the gates that now protect instead of imprison, I realize something. You know what Amanda said about this place being a mirror? Yeah. She's wrong. It's not a mirror showing them who they are. I take his hand. It's a mirror showing me who I've become. The morning bell chimes, calling the first guests to orientation. My staff, all local, all carefully chosen, begin their choreographed welcome. Time to begin, I say. No! Noel squeezes my hand. Time to continue. You began long ago, when you first refused to believe their lies about who you were. Together, we walk toward the gathering crowd. The fire pit's flames have died, the letters nothing but ash. Behind us, the gates stand open, not to the past, but to possibility. And for the first time since this all began, I feel completely, utterly free.
The first time my mother called my art studio a waste of space, I was 16. Today, 18 years later, she's doing it again, but this time with a purpose that makes my stomach turn. I'm Valerie, and this studio has been my sanctuary for the past 5 years. Every paint-splattered floorboard and sun-bleached wall holds a piece of my soul. The morning light streams through the bay windows, catching dust motes that dance around my latest commission, an abstract piece that's already sold for enough to cover 3 months of mortgage payments. My phone buzzes again. Mum's third call in 10 minutes. Valerie, thank God. We have a situation. Her voice carries that familiar mix of drama and disappointment. Your sister needs us. I dip my brush in cerulean blue, adding another layer to the canvas. What's Kiara done now? It's Gareth, he's gone. A pause for effect. Left her and the kids, just gone. Bank accounts emptied. The brush freezes mid-stroke. What? She needs somewhere to stay while we sort this out. Your father and I have been talking, and there it is. The familiar weight settles in my chest before she even finishes the sentence. The studio would make a perfect nursery, she continues. All that natural light. And honestly, darling, it's time you got serious about life anyway. 34 is too old to be playing with paints. I glance at the letter on my desk, the one confirming my acceptance to the Costa Rican artist residency. 10 days until departure. The irony almost makes me laugh. Mum, this is my workplace. I make a living here. Oh, please. Those little paintings barely cover your expenses. We all know your father helps with the mortgage. I bite back the truth that Dad hasn't contributed a dime since I bought the house 3 years ago. They still think I rent. My phone pings with a text from Ciara. Please, Val. The kids need their aunt. Don't be selfish. Selfish. Their favourite word for me since childhood. Selfish for choosing art school over business. Selfish for not lending Kiara my car when she crashed hers. Selfish for missing Sunday dinners to meet gallery deadlines. Your sister will be there in an hour, Mum announces. We'll help move your things to the garage. You can store all your... She pauses, searching for the right word. Supplies there. I walk to the kitchen and fill the kettle, my movements deliberate and calm. Another text buzzes through. This one from the women's creative collective I've been talking to about leasing the house. They're still interested. Perfect timing. Mum, I'll put the tea on. See you soon. I end the call and lean against the counter, a smile playing at my lips as I imagine their faces when they realise what's coming. They want my space. Fine. But they'll learn what happens when you push an artist too far. The kettle whistles. I pull out my grandmother's china set, the one Mum always coveted but never got. Might as well make this memorable. My phone lights up with a notification from the airline app. Check-in available for your flight to San Jose. I hear car doors slamming outside. Mum's Mercedes, Dad's BMW. Chiara's voice carrying across the garden, already planning where to put the changing table. They're right on schedule, just like always. I smooth my paint-stained apron and check my reflection in the window. The woman staring back isn't the pushover they expect. She's someone else entirely, someone who's been planning this moment for longer than they know. The doorbell rings. I pick up the teapot, arranged perfectly on the antique tray with 4 cups. 1 for each of them, none for me. They'll need something to hold on to when their world shifts sideways. "Coming!" I call out, my voice steady and sweet. Let them think I'm the same compliant Valerie, ready to sacrifice everything for family harmony. Let them measure my walls and rearrange my life in their heads. I have 10 days to show them exactly how wrong they've been about me all along. The door opens to their expectant faces. Mum's barely concealed satisfaction, Dad's practiced concern, Chiara's designer sunglasses hiding what I'm sure are tactical tears. They file in like they own the place, already reaching for the tea I've prepared. I smile as I pour, watching steam rise like the plans forming in my mind. "So," I say, "tell me everything." And they do, not noticing how I don't touch my phone when it buzzes again. Probably my lawyer confirming the lease paperwork is ready. They don't see me glance at the clock, counting down hours until my meeting with the collective. They never did see me, really, but they're about to feel my absence in ways they never imagined. Let the games begin. "The light in here is just perfect for the crib," Chiara announces, pacing my studio with the confident stride of someone who's never heard the word no. Her designer heels click against the hardwood floors I hand-restored last summer. "We can put the changing table where that easel is." I sit perched on my work stool, watching my sister measure my life with an iPhone app. Her kids, Max and Emma, are with our parents at the park, probably being promised the moon and stars, just like their mother always was. "How long do you think you'll need to stay?" I ask, keeping my voice neutral. Chiara pushes her sunglasses up onto her head, revealing red-rimmed eyes. "God, Val, my husband just abandoned me? I'm not exactly working with a timeline here." Mum swoops in from the kitchen, armed with her 3rd cup of tea. "Darling, don't upset your sister. She's been through enough." She turns to me with that familiar look, the one that says I'm being difficult again. "Valerie, we found some lovely storage units nearby. Very clean, very secure." I think of the acceptance letter in my desk drawer, of the lease agreement waiting in my email, of the carefully orchestrated exit strategy I've been piecing together for months. "Actually," I say, "I have some shows coming up, commissions to finish." "Shows?" Mum scoffs. "You mean those little coffee shop displays?" "The Hartley Gallery, actually." I don't mention it's one of the most prestigious contemporary art spaces in the city. They wouldn't care anyway. "Oh, please," Chiara interjects, pulling open my supply drawers without asking. "You can paint in the garage. It's not like you're Picasso." A memory flashes. Chiara ripping up my sketchbook in high school because I wouldn't let her copy my homework. Mum making me apologise for making a fuss about it. My phone buzzes. A text from Dad. "Called your landlord. He's willing to discuss early lease termination." I almost laugh out loud. They still think I rent this place. Never bothered to ask how I actually bought it 3 years ago. Never questioned where my coffee shop money really went. "I need to make some calls," I say, standing up. "Work stuff? Now?" Mum's voice rises an octave. "We're trying to help your sister. It'll just take a minute." I step into my bedroom, closing the door on their protests. I dial Caitlin, my former professor and current mentor. "They're here," I whisper, moving in like they own the place. "Lease papers are ready," she replies. "The collective can move in next week. You're sure about this?" Through the door, I hear Chiara. "This wall colour has to go. It's so artistic." "Never been more sure," I answer. When I return, they've already started a pile of my non-essential supplies. My special order brushes, my reference books, my inspiration board, all deemed unnecessary for their vision of my future. "We can convert your bedroom too," Sierra's saying. Make it a proper playroom. You can take the pull-out couch in the living room. Absolutely not. The words come out sharper than intended. Mum's head snaps up. Valerie, your sister needs... My sister needs therapy, I cut in, immediately regretting the outburst. Not yet. Not time yet. Sierra's face crumples right on cue. Mum rushes to comfort her while Dad appears in the doorway, frowning. Just got off the phone with Steve, he says. Your landlord's being difficult about the lease. Says he hasn't heard from you about moving out. I force my face to remain neutral. Really? How strange. This is ridiculous, Kiara snaps, mascara running perfectly down one cheek. I have nowhere else to go. My children need stability. And they'll have it, I say softly. Just give me a few days to sort things out. They relax visibly, interpreting my words as surrender. Mum starts talking about paint samples. Dad makes notes about moving trucks. Sierra pulls out her phone, probably texting her friends about her wonderful, accommodating sister. None of them notice me slipping the acceptance letter into my pocket. None of them see me checking flight details or confirming appointments with my lawyer. They never did notice much about me, except when I wasn't fitting into their plans. I think I saw some boxes in the garage, I offer. Let me check. In the garage, I lean against my car and take a deep breath. Through the window, I can see them in my studio, rearranging my life without me. Just like always. My phone buzzes again. An email from the airline confirming my seat upgrade. First class. Might as well be comfortable while burning bridges. I hear Kiara calling my name, probably wondering where those boxes are. I straighten up, adjust my expression, and head back inside. 9 days left. Just 9 more days of being their perfect scapegoat. Then they'll learn what happens when you mistake silence for submission. So what should I do with these? I hold up a set of expensive acrylic paints, playing my part perfectly. The garage gets pretty hot in summer. They might melt. Sierra barely glances up from her phone. Just sell them. It's not like you'll need them anymore once you get a real job. I add them to the keep pile when she's not looking. These paints paid her mortgage last month. Not that she knows that. The anonymous transfer I'd arranged after Gareth left had kept her afloat, but she probably thought it was from one of her countless rich friends. Speaking of jobs, Mom chimes in, sorting through my canvases like they're yard sale items. Your father knows someone at his firm looking for a receptionist. I nod, pretending to consider it while texting Caitlin under the table. Meeting still on for 3? Confirmed. Bringing contracts plus keys for collective, she replies. Val, are you even listening? Kiara snaps. We're trying to help you build an actual future here. Sorry, just checking gallery details. I pause, then add innocently. By the way, how much is Gareth sending for child support? The room goes silent. Kiara's face flushes. That's none of your business, Mum interjects quickly. Just trying to help plan the budget, I say, voice dripping honey. Since we're all so concerned about proper adult responsibilities. Dad clears his throat from his corner. Actually, we should discuss financial arrangements. Your mother and I can help with... No need, I cut in. I've got it covered. They exchange looks, the kind they've been sharing since I was 12, and announced I wanted to be an artist. The poor, deluded Valerie looks. My phone buzzes again. A text from an unknown number. We need to talk. About Kiara. Tate. My heart skips. Tate, my ex. Gareth's former best friend. Haven't heard from him in years. I need to run some errands, I announce, grabbing my keys. Art supplies to sell, you know. Perfect timing, Mum says. We need paint samples from the hardware store. I'm thinking pale yellow for the nursery walls. I'm already halfway to the door. Make a list. I'll check prices. The drive to Caitlin's gallery takes 15 minutes. I spend every one of them imagining my family's faces when they realize what's coming. Caitlin greets me with a knowing smile and a stack of papers. The collective is thrilled, she says, spreading out the lease agreement. 12 months starting next week. They'll take good care of the place. And my art? Safe storage in our climate-controlled warehouse until you're back from Costa Rica. She pauses. Are you sure about this, Val? It's a nuclear option. I think about this morning. Kiara measuring my studio windows for curtains, Mum planning to paint over my murals, Dad making calls about proper jobs. They've never seen me, I say, signing the papers. Time to show them what that costs. Caitlin hands me a coffee. Your latest piece sold, by the way. The blue abstract. Buyer paid double asking price. I smile, thinking of Mum's dismissive little paintings comment. The price would cover Kiara's rent for 6 months. Not that I'll be helping with that anymore. My phone lights up. Tate again. It's about what really happened with Gareth and us. Ciara knew things she never told you. Of course she did. My perfect sister, always managing everyone's stories but her own. I should get back, I tell Caitlin. They'll wonder where I am. Here? She hands me a set of keys. For the collective, don't forget to introduce yourself to your new tenants. I drive home slowly, stopping for paint samples I'll never use. Through the studio windows, I can see Kiara and Mom rearranging my furniture, planning their takeover of my space. Inside, they've made more piles. Donate. Trash. Maybe keep. Years of my work, sorted by people who never understood it. Oh good, you're back, Mum says. We need to discuss the timeline for moving your things out. Ciara's lease ends next week and... Actually, I interrupt. I made a list of things I need to sort through first. Give me a few days? Ciara rolls her eyes. Seriously? The kids need... Just a few days, I repeat softly, to do it properly. They relent, probably thinking I'm finally accepting their plan. Mum looks relieved. Dad pats my shoulder awkwardly. After they leave, I stand in my studio. My real studio, not their imagined nursery. Evening light paints the walls gold, catching the edges of half-packed boxes and bubble-wrapped paintings. My phone buzzes one last time. Tate, coffee tomorrow? You deserve to know the truth. I text back a time and place, then start wrapping my grandmother's china. They'll miss these cups when I'm gone. 7 days left. The countdown continues. Tate hasn't changed much in 5 years. Same leather jacket, same way of running his hand through his hair when he's nervous. He's already at our usual table at Riverside Coffee when I arrive. You look good, Val, he says, standing awkwardly. Success suits you? Let's skip the small talk. I sit down, not removing my jacket. What do you know about Gareth? He sighs, pushing a coffee toward me. He's been cheating on Ciara for years, since before the kids. And your sister knew, the whole time. The coffee suddenly tastes bitter. She knew? She needed his money, his status. Played the perfect wife while he played around. He leans forward. But that's not why I called you. A barista passes by, giving us space to process the weight of his words. Remember why we broke up? He asks. You said you needed space, that we wanted different things. The memory still stings, even after all these years. Kiara told me you were cheating on me, said she caught you with some gallery owner. His hands clench around his cup. I believed her because, well, she's Kiara. She's always been the honest one, right? The world tilts sideways. What? Found out last month she'd done the same thing to Gareth's previous girlfriend. It's her pattern. Eliminate threats, maintain control. He pulls out his phone, shows me old texts from Kiara. She was scared you'd get serious about art. Move away. Leave her without her backup plan. Backup plan. You, the responsible one. The one who'd take care of her when everything fell apart. He pauses. Like now. My hands are shaking. She ruined us to keep me available for her eventual breakdown. Val, there's more. He slides an envelope across the table. Gareth didn't empty the accounts. Ciara did. She's been moving money for months, preparing for this. Playing victim is her specialty. I think of my anonymous transfers to her account, of my parents rushing to her rescue, of my studio being sacrificed for her convenience. Why tell me now? Because she's doing it again. I heard her on the phone yesterday, telling your parents she's planning to stay permanently, that she'll help you see reason about giving up art. He reaches for my hand, but I pull back. You need to know what you're dealing with. My phone buzzes. Mum. Picked up more paint samples. Thinking of remodelling your bathroom too. Ciara needs a proper vanity. I have to go. I stand up abruptly. Thank you for telling me. Val, wait. Tate follows me outside. What are you going to do? I think of my packed suitcase, of the lease agreement, of the life I've built that they're so eager to dismantle. Nothing, I say. I'm not going to do anything. He looks confused. They're taking everything from you. No, I smile, thinking of the keys in my pocket. They just think they are. Back home, Ciara's car is in my driveway. She's in my studio, supervising movers who are shifting my furniture to make room for her vision. Oh, good, she chirps when she sees me. We need your help deciding where to donate these paintings. They're not really nursery appropriate. I look at her, really look at her. My beautiful, manipulative sister, the golden child who's been orchestrating my life's disappointments since we were kids. Actually, I say, I think I'll keep them. For now. Don't be difficult, Val. The movers are charging by the hour. Who's paying them? She blinks. What? The movers. Since Gareth left you broke, right? Who's paying? A flash of something crosses her face. Calculation. Maybe fear. Daddy, of course. Interesting. I head to my bedroom, lock the door behind me. My phone lights up with a text from the airline. Your flight is confirmed for Sunday. I pull out my grandmother's old writing desk and begin a letter. Dear family, by the time you read this... A knock at my door. Val? Ciara's voice, honey sweet. Mum wants to know if you'll join us for dinner. We're planning the nursery colour scheme. I'll be right there, I call back, continuing to write. 4 days left. Just 4 more days of playing the compliant daughter, the supportive sister. 4 days until they learn what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. I seal the letter, add it to my go bag, and head out to dinner. Let them plan their nursery, let them measure and scheme and rearrange. They think they're dismantling my life. They don't realise they're just providing material for my greatest work yet, my disappearing act. My phone buzzes one last time. Caitlin, collective members want to meet tomorrow. Ready to set the plan in motion? I text back a single word. Ready. What's this? Ciara waves my journal in the air, her face flushed with anger. The exit plan? You're planning to abandon us? I keep my voice steady, though my heart races. You went through my things? Of course I did. You've been acting weird for days. She flips through pages. Costa Rica. An artist residency? Are you kidding me? Mum and Dad burst through the studio door, probably drawn by Ciara's rising voice. What's going on? Mum demands. Show them. Ciara thrusts the journal at them. Show them how selfish you really are. I watch their faces as they read. Dad's turns red. Mum's crumples in familiar disappointment. You accepted this without consulting us. Dad's voice shakes. Without considering your sister's situation? My situation? I laugh, and it sounds foreign even to me. You mean my career? My home? My life? Don't be dramatic, Mum cuts in. This isn't about you. Ciara always needs something, I interrupt. And I'm always expected to provide it. Because that's what family does, Ciara shrieks. But you wouldn't know about that, would you? Too busy with your little paintings to care about anyone else. I think of the anonymous payments, of the times I'd watched her kids so she could network with Gareth's colleagues, of every sacrifice they'd never noticed. You know what's interesting, I say, keeping my voice low. None of you ever asked how I bought this house. They pause, confused by the change in topic. What are you talking about? Dad frowns. You rent from Steve? No, I bought it 3 years ago, with my little paintings money. I turn to Ciara. The same money that mysteriously appeared in your account last month when Gareth left. Her face pales. I don't know what else is interesting? How you knew exactly when to tell Tate I was cheating on him, right before my first international show, the one that would have taken me away from being your backup plan. That's ancient history, she stammers, and he's lying. Like you lied about Gareth's affairs? About the money you've been hiding? Mum steps between us. Stop this nonsense. Your sister is going through a divorce. A divorce she orchestrated, I cut in. But you'll never see that, will you? Because Ciara's the victim. Ciara's the golden child. Ciara needs the studio, the house, my life. You're being hysterical, Dad says. This isn't like you. No, this is exactly like me. You just never bothered to notice. I pull out my phone, dial a number on speaker. Hello? Caitlin's voice fills the room. Val, the collective's here. We're ready when you are. Perfect timing, I say. Could you bring over the lease paperwork? My family should probably see it. You can't lease what you don't own, Mum snaps. I reach into my desk, pull out the deed to the house, watch their faces as reality crashes in. You're right, I say softly. Good thing I own it then. Tiara lunges for the papers, but I step back. You can't do this, my children. Your children have a trust fund from Gareth's parents, the one you didn't tell anyone about. I meet her eyes. Tate told me everything. The doorbell rings. Caitlin enters with a group of women, the collective members, right on schedule. You must be Valerie's family, one says brightly. We're so excited about transforming this space into our new creative hub. Mum grabs my arm. Whatever game you're playing, stop it now. Game's already over, Mum. I gently remove her hand. You have until Sunday to find alternative arrangements. You'd throw your own sister out? Dad's voice rises. Your own flesh and blood? No, I say, watching Caitlin lay out the contracts. I'm just doing what you taught me, looking out for family, my chosen family, the ones who actually see me. Tiara starts crying, right on cue. But for the first time, I don't feel the pull to fix it. I'll be gone by morning, I tell them. The collective moves in next week. You can reach my lawyer if you have questions. Gone where? Mum demands. I think of my packed bags, of my ticket to Costa Rica, of the freedom waiting on the other side of Sunday. Does it matter? I ask. You never saw me when I was here anyway. They're still shouting as I walk out, their voices fading behind me like old paint being covered by new colours. 2 days left. But really, I'm already gone. My phone buzzes with a final text from Tate. Proud of you. For the first time in years, I am too. The moving truck arrives at exactly 9 a.m. on Sunday. I watch from the airport terminal as my phone explodes with notifications. Texts from Mum, missed calls from Dad, voice messages from Ciara, each one more desperate than the last. A video call comes through from Caitlin. I answer to see chaos unfolding in my driveway. You're missing quite a show, she says, turning the camera. Ciara stands in her designer dress, blocking the movers with her body. This is my sister's house. You can't just... Actually, one of the collective members holds up the lease. It's our house for the next 12 months. Legally binding contract. Mum's Mercedes screeches into the driveway. She jumps out, still in her church clothes. Where is she? Where's Valerie? Probably on her way to her flight, Caitlin answers calmly. As she informed you all last week. Flight? Dad appears, face red. What flight? The collective begins moving in their equipment. Easels, supplies, furniture. Professional, efficient, unstoppable. Like a wave washing away footprints in the sand. This is ridiculous, Ciara screams. I have children. We have nowhere to go. That's not true, another collective member says. According to these bank statements, she waves a folder. You have quite a healthy savings account, plus that lovely condo in your name. Ciara's face goes white. The secret account. The one she thought no one knew about. How did you... She starts. Your sister's lawyer is very thorough, Caitlin explains. Had to be for insurance purposes. My boarding call echoes through the terminal. First class to San Jose, now boarding. Wait, Mum grabs the phone from Caitlin. Valerie, baby, please, we can talk about this. Check the studio door, I say quietly. I left you something. The camera shakes as they rush to the studio. There, taped to the door, is a sealed envelope. Should I stay on the line? Caitlin asks. No need. I've seen enough. I end the call, but not before I hear the envelope being torn open. Inside, they'll find 3 things. First, a copy of the lease agreement, legally binding and ironclad. Second, a photo of me at the airport, smiling and free. Third, a letter that begins, Dear family, you wanted my space. Congratulations. Now you have nothing. My phone buzzes continuously as I board the plane. I scroll through the messages before switching to airplane mode. Mum, please come home. We can fix this. Dad, this is completely unacceptable behaviour. Ciara, you vindictive bitch. You've ruined everything. The last one makes me smile. Coming from her, it's almost a compliment. A final text from Caitlin. They're still here. Your mum's crying. Ciara's threatening lawyers. The collective is calmly unpacking while your dad makes angry phone calls. It's better than theatre. I settle into my first-class seat, order a champagne, and pull out my sketchbook. The flight attendant peers at my drawing, a family of shadows being washed away by waves of colour. "That's beautiful," she says. "What's it called?" "Notice served," I reply, adding another stroke of blue. My phone lights up one last time before I turn it off completely. It's an email from my lawyer. "Lease filed and recorded. Restraining order ready if needed. Your family has been formally notified that any attempts to enter or interfere with the property will result in legal action. Enjoy Costa Rica. You're free." Free. The word echoes as we take off, the ground falling away below us. In my mind, I can see them standing in my driveway. Mum clutching her pearls, Dad on the phone with his useless lawyer friends, Shara realising her backup plan has backfired spectacularly. The collective will transform my studio into something new, something vibrant, something that has nothing to do with nurseries or family obligations or golden children who take and take and take. I order another champagne, raise it in a silent toast to the clouds outside my window, to Kiara, who thought she could claim my space like she claimed everything else, to my parents, who'll have to find a new scapegoat for their golden child's disasters, to the artist they never saw, finally painting her masterpiece in disappearing ink. The plane levels out above the clouds. Below, my family is learning what happens when you push too far, take too much, see too little. I pull out my noise-cancelling headphones, drowning out the last echoes of their voices in my head. Let them rage. Let them threaten. Let them finally feel what it's like to be invisible. I've got a new canvas waiting in Costa Rica, and this time, I'm the only one holding the brush. "You turned your trauma into pure gold," Desiree says, studying my latest piece. The Costa Rican sun streams through the studio windows, catching the metallic elements in my work. "This is going to be the centerpiece of the show. 3 months have passed since I left my family standing in that driveway. 3 months of peace, creativity, and healing in this tropical artist haven. The gallery director wants to know the title," she continues, snapping photos for the exhibition catalogue. I step back, considering the massive canvas, swirling shapes in deep blues and purples, shot through with veins of gold leaf. At its centre, a hollow space in the perfect dimensions of my old studio. Inheritance, I decide. I'm calling it Inheritance. My phone chimes, the first time I've allowed notifications in weeks. An email from Caitlin. "You might want to see this. Your sister's meltdown has gone viral." Attached is a link to a local news website. The headline makes my stomach drop. "Local woman claims artist sister, abandoned family. Truth reveals different story." "Oh God," I mutter, clicking the link. Desiree reads over my shoulder as comments pour in. "Wait, the abandoned sister had a secret condo and savings account while crying homeless? Who tries to steal their sibling's house and business? Found the golden child's Instagram. Years of bragging about wealth while her sister was actually paying her bills anonymously? The parents are just as bad. Who sides with a lying manipulator over their other kid?" I scroll through hundreds of similar comments, my hands shaking. "Looks like your sister tried to play victim on social media," Desiree observes. "It backfired spectacularly." My phone buzzes again. An email from Mum. "How could you let this happen? Your sister is devastated. Her reputation is ruined. The country club is gossiping. Please come home and fix this." Delete. Another from Dad. "This public humiliation is unacceptable. Your sister's children are suffering. Their friends' parents are asking questions." Delete. "You okay?" Desiree squeezes my shoulder. "Actually, yes." I put my phone down. For the first time, I really am. The studio door opens, and Maria, the residency director, bursts in. "Valerie, amazing news. The International Gallery Association wants your show. All of it. They're offering a world tour." My heart stops. "World tour? 6 countries, starting with Paris." She hands me the official letter. "They're calling your work a revolutionary exploration of family dynamics and emotional liberation. The advance alone is more than most artists see in years." I think of my family's dismissal of my little paintings, of Mum's suggestion that I become a receptionist, of Shara measuring my studio for her nursery. "There's more," Maria continues. "That blog post about your story, it's being optioned for a book deal. People are calling it a perfect example of quiet revenge and karmic justice." Desiree hugs me. You did it. You really did it. My phone lights up one last time. A text from Tate. Saw the news. Saw your art too. You're incredible. Kiera's showing her true colours to everyone now. No one to manipulate when the whole world knows the truth. I walk to the window, looking out at the lush Costa Rican landscape. Somewhere back home, my family is facing the consequences of their actions. Not through my words or accusations, but through the simple act of me walking away and letting truth surface on its own. The gallery wants to know if you'll speak at the opening, Maria says. Share your story. I turn back to my painting, Inheritance, with its hollow centre slowly filling with light. Yes, I say. I think it's time. Desiree raises an eyebrow. What will you tell them? I dip my brush in gold paint, adding final touches to the canvas. The truth, that sometimes the greatest masterpiece you can create is the life you save by walking away. My phone buzzes with another news alert. Exclusive, the real story behind viral family drama. How one artist turned pain into success. I silence it without reading further. Let them talk. Let them speculate. Let them finally see what they missed all those years. I have paintings to finish, a world tour to plan, a life to live. And somewhere in my old studio, now filled with creative energy and genuine art, the last traces of my family's control are being painted over, one brush stroke at a time. Ready for the photographer? Maria asks. The exhibition catalogue needs your portrait. I stand before my work, brush in hand, smile genuine and free. Ready, I say. I've never been more ready. The Paris gallery buzzes with anticipation. Through the glass doors, I can see the line stretching around the block. Critics, collectors, and art lovers, all here for my exhibition opening. 5 minutes, Maria whispers, adjusting my collar. Are you ready? Before I can answer, my phone lights up. Caitlin. Turn on the news. Now. Maria pulls it up on her tablet. A familiar face fills the screen. Gareth, Ciara's ex-husband, standing on courthouse steps. After reviewing evidence of financial manipulation and parental alienation, he announces, "The court has granted me full custody of our children." The camera pans to Ciara, being led to a police car. White-collar fraud charges, the ticker reads. The secret accounts weren't so secret anymore. Your sister's going to jail, Maria says softly. No, I correct her. She's finally facing consequences. The gallery doors open. People flood in, moving from piece to piece. I hear gasps at Inheritance, now valued at more than my parents' house. A familiar figure catches my eye. Tate, looking sharp in a suit, studying my work with pride. Couldn't miss this, he says when I approach. It's beautiful, Val. All of it. Even the ugly parts? Especially those. He hands me a newspaper. Speaking of which, the headline reads, Local business mogul steps down amid scandal. Below, a photo of my father leaving his office, head down. The fraud investigation into Ciara revealed some creative accounting at his firm, Tate explains. He's been covering up her schemes for years. The gallery director signals. Time for my speech. I take the podium, facing the crowd of eager faces. Cameras flash. Critics lean forward. People ask why I paint hollow spaces, I begin. Empty rooms, missing pieces, negative space filled with gold. They ask what I'm trying to say. Movement at the back catches my eye. Mum slips in, looking smaller than I've ever seen her. No designer clothes today, no perfect makeup. The truth is, I continue, sometimes the most valuable thing we own is the courage to leave space empty, to resist filling it with other people's expectations. Mom's eyes meet mine. For once, she's the one who looks away first. My family wanted me to trade my dreams for diapers, I say, watching her flinch. Instead, I frame their demands and turn them into art. Every dismissal became a brush stroke. Every manipulation became colour. The crowd murmurs appreciation, moving closer. They say success is the best revenge, I pause, letting the words hang. But I disagree. The best revenge is living truthfully, even when the truth hurts. After the speech, Mum approaches. She's holding a familiar envelope, my last letter, worn from repeated reading. "Your father's firm is finished," she says quietly. "The country club rescinded our membership. Kiara's children," she trails off, "are better off with Gareth," I finish, "away from the manipulation. We lost everything." "No," I correct her, "you lost what was never really yours. My space, my talent, my compliance." She looks around the gallery, at the price tags that could buy several houses, at the critics scribbling rave reviews, at the life she tried to dismiss as childish dreams. "I'm sorry," she whispers. "I don't expect forgiveness." "Good," I cut in, "because that's not why I'm here. I'm here because I chose myself. Finally." The gallery director approaches with a champagne bottle. They're ready for the toast. Mum steps back, understanding the dismissal. "You look strong," she says. "I always was," I reply. "You just never saw it." She slips away as cameras flash. The director raises her glass. "To Valerie," she announces, "whose Inheritance series just sold for a gallery record, and whose story reminds us that sometimes the greatest art comes from knowing what to leave behind." I raise my glass, catching Tate's proud smile, Maria's knowing nod, Caitlin's thumbs up from the back. My phone buzzes one last time. A message from the Women's Collective, now thriving in my old studio. "Your space is filled with light and creation, just like you wanted, just like you deserved." I look around at my work, at the hollow spaces now filled with gold, at the shadows transformed into light, at the truth painted in colours too bright to ignore. They wanted me to trade my dreams for diapers. Instead, I turned their demands into my masterpiece, and now the whole world can see exactly what they missed. I raise my glass higher, toasting not to success or revenge, but to the empty spaces I refuse to fill. Sometimes the most beautiful art comes from knowing exactly what to leave behind. And sometimes the greatest inheritance is the life you choose for yourself.
Hi, I'm Mary, and I'm 30 years old. Recently, I became a mother for the first time. It's an exciting but also challenging time, and I'm learning how to balance everything that comes with taking care of a newborn. Those first few days at home with my baby boy were full of happiness, but they were also exhausting. I knew having a baby would change things, but I didn't realize how tough it would be to physically recover from childbirth, while also managing the house and taking care of my son. Everything at home was a bit chaotic. Laundry was piling up, and the dishes were often left in the sink for longer than I wanted. It was hard to find a moment for myself, and I was constantly running around, trying to meet my baby's needs. One afternoon, while I was attempting to calm my crying son, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I was surprised to find my mother-in-law, Janet, standing at the door. She walked into our living room, and I could see her eyes moving over the mess, the toys scattered around, the clutter, and the unwashed dishes in the kitchen. It wasn't exactly the way I wanted her to see our home, but I hadn't had a chance to tidy up. Janet looked at me, and I could sense a mix of worry and judgment in her eyes. "I thought I'd come by to check on you," Janet said as she carefully stepped over a baby toy on the floor. "Jerry mentioned you might need some help." "Thanks, Janet," I replied, trying my best to sound calm even though I was feeling overwhelmed. "Things are a bit crazy right now, but we're managing." Janet didn't seem convinced. She walked into the kitchen, and the sound of unwashed dishes clinking against each other made me feel even more self-conscious. "Looks like you could use more than just a little help," she said sharply. "This place is a mess. Is this how you plan to raise my grandsons?" Her words stung, and I felt a rush of emotions: frustration, sadness, and stress all at once. I had been trying my hardest to keep up with everything, but in that moment, it felt like nothing I did was good enough. "I'm doing the best I can," I replied, holding my son a bit closer to me, as if trying to shield myself from her judgment. Janet sighed, clearly not impressed. "Mary, being a mother is about prioritizing. And right now, it looks like you aren't prioritizing anything properly." Before I could say anything else, Jerry, my husband, walked into the room. He quickly sensed the tension and tried to smooth things over. "Mom, Mary is doing an amazing job," he said, coming to my defense. "It's been really tough, especially with the baby not sleeping well." Instead of calming down, Janet turned to Jerry with a serious look. "You need to help her understand what's important here. It's not just about cleaning the house. It's about being responsible. She's not living up to the family standards. I could see Jerry was caught in the middle. He looked at me, then back at his mother, unsure of what to say. Mom, let's not do this right now. Mary is still recovering, but Janet cut him off. That's exactly the time when discipline needs to be taught, she said, her voice rising. If she learns to manage things now, she'll be better off in the future. You can't be too easy on her, Jerry. I was stunned when Jerry hesitated and then finally said, Maybe you're right, Mom. Maybe Sophie does need to learn the hard way. Hearing those words from my husband felt like a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe he would side with his mother, especially when he had seen how hard I was trying. Janet gave a firm nod, as if she had won the argument. She pushed Jerry toward me, saying, Show her that this kind of behavior can't be tolerated. In that moment, I felt completely overwhelmed. It wasn't just the physical exhaustion or the mess around the house, it was the feeling of being judged and misunderstood by the people who were supposed to support me. Motherhood was already hard, and I was doing my best, but it felt like nothing was enough for Janet. That day made me realize how important it is to have a support system that understands what new mothers go through. It's not just about keeping the house clean or meeting family standards. It's about doing your best, even when things feel overwhelming, and having people who lift you up instead of tearing you down. I barely had time to react before Jerry's hand struck my cheek. The sound echoed through the room, loud and shocking. It was a moment I'll never forget, a line that should never have been crossed. I held our baby boy close, his cries mixing with the sound of my racing heartbeat. Jerry, what are you doing? I managed to ask through tears. The pain from the slap was nothing compared to the pain of betrayal. I couldn't believe this was happening. This is for your own good, Mary, Jerry said, his voice flat and empty. He didn't even look me in the eyes. You need to learn. The room fell silent. The only sound was the soft whimpers of our son. Jerry glanced at me, his face showing a mix of frustration and embarrassment, but it didn't feel like an apology. Janet, his mother, stood there with a stern expression, not saying a word, but her presence alone was enough to make things worse. She didn't move, didn't flinch. She just stood there, watching as if she had expected this to happen. What was supposed to be a visit to help me had turned into something else entirely. Instead of support, I got judgment, and now this is a slap that shook my entire world. It was like everything I thought I knew about family was crumbling around me. As Janet prepared to leave, she whispered something to Jerry at the door. I couldn't hear all of it, but her smug look and Jerry's troubled face told me it wasn't anything kind. I could feel the coldness in the air, and it made my heart sink even more. That night, after the chaos of the day, I rocked my son to sleep, trying to soothe him as much as myself. But the fear and dread wouldn't leave me. What was supposed to be a loving family now felt like something else entirely. It felt like I was being judged, like I was on trial, and I was failing in their eyes. As I held my son close, I made a decision. I needed to get out. Not just for my safety, but for his too. The house that once felt like a home now felt like a prison, built by the very people who were supposed to love and protect us. I realized that this wasn't a place where I could raise my son safely. Jerry had crossed a line, and I couldn't trust him anymore, especially with his mother's influence always lurking in the background. That night, I couldn't bear to sleep next to Jerry. Instead, I took my baby to the nursery, a small room that had become my sanctuary in the past few weeks. As I sat in the rocking chair, holding my son, the events of the day played over and over in my mind. Each time I thought about it, the pain and betrayal grew stronger. I knew that I couldn't stay. The next morning, while Jerry was at work and Janet was thankfully gone, I made a call. Maria, a close friend who had offered her help before, answered quickly. Jess, it's me. I need that help you offered, I said, my voice shaking with a mix of fear and determination.
Say no more, Mary.
I'll come by today with my truck. We can move your things to my place until you figure out where you want to go, Maria responded, her voice calm and reassuring. We came up with a simple but risky plan. During the day, I would pack as much as I could, just the essentials for my son and me. Maria would come by in the evening, and we would quietly move everything out before Jerry came home. I knew I couldn't face him again, Not after what had happened. It was dangerous to stay, and I couldn't risk him or Janet finding out what I was planning. As I packed, my heart raced, but I knew it was the right thing to do. This wasn't just about me. I had to protect my son and give him the safe, loving environment he deserved. I couldn't let him grow up in a house where violence was acceptable, where control and manipulation were the norms. Leaving was hard, but staying would have been harder. This was the beginning of a new chapter for us, one where I could finally breathe, and my son could grow up in peace. I stood there, thinking about what would happen if I faced Jerry again. He might try to apologize, or worse, Janet might convince him to continue controlling me. I couldn't let that happen. I knew I had to leave. All day, as I packed my things, every baby outfit and toy felt heavy with memories. I couldn't stop thinking about the life I had imagined, the family I had wanted to build with Jerry. But the sharp memory of Jerry's slap and Janet's cold, judgmental eyes reminded me that staying wasn't an option anymore. By late afternoon, most of my things were packed into boxes. I hid everything in the garage, trying to stay calm and focused. Maria, my best friend, arrived just as the sun began to set. Her arrival felt like a glimmer of hope in what had been one of the hardest days of my life. "Are you ready?" Maria asked as she stepped inside, looking at the boxes and bags scattered around. "As ready as I'll ever be," I replied, holding my baby boy a little closer to my chest. I had to do this for him, for both of us. We moved quickly, loading everything into her truck. We worked silently but efficiently, as if we had done this 100 times before. The last room I packed was the nursery. It had been my little sanctuary, the only place in the house where I had felt safe and at peace. I took one last look around, saying a quiet goodbye to the life I had dreamed of having with Jerry. But I knew now that this dream was over. As we drove away, I watched the house fade in the rearview mirror. A chapter in my life was closing, and though my heart felt heavy, I also felt a flicker of hope. My baby slept peacefully in his car seat, unaware of the big change happening, but finally, I knew he was safe. This was the first night of our new life, a life where fear and manipulation no longer had control over us. When we arrived at Maria's place, I felt a wave of relief. Her home was filled with warmth and safety, a stark contrast to the oppressive feeling that had taken over my own home. Being there made me even more determined to make sure Jerry and Janet couldn't hurt us again. I realized that simply leaving wasn't enough. I needed to ensure that they couldn't twist the story in their favor or ever put someone else through what I had experienced. I started by reaching out to family and friends, pretending I just wanted to catch up. During these conversations, I carefully gathered bits of information, subtly recording any mentions of Janet's controlling behavior or Jerry's strange willingness to follow her lead. Some people were hesitant to talk, but many hadn't realized how deep Janet's manipulation ran. Over time, I began to collect text messages, voicemails, and even recorded calls that painted a clear picture of what was really happening behind closed doors. The most valuable piece of evidence came when I managed to record a video of Janet coaching Jerry on how to control me. Her words made it clear that this wasn't about concern or love, it was about power and control. Once I had gathered enough evidence, I decided it was time to confront them. I chose a family gathering hosted by Jerry's sister. It was a neutral place with plenty of family members present. Some of them had already hinted that they were uncomfortable with the way Janet dominated the family, so I hoped this would be the right time and place to reveal the truth. On the day of the gathering, I was nervous. My hands shook and my heart raced, but I knew this had to be done. I arrived with Maria by my side, her support giving me the strength to go through with it. As I walked into the room, I could feel the tension. People greeted me with quiet murmurs, but everyone seemed to know something was off. Word about Jerry and Janet's behavior had spread through the family, and even the relatives who lived far away had heard rumors. After the initial greetings, I took a deep breath and prepared myself for what was to come. It was time to show everyone who Jerry and Janet really were, and to finally take control of my life again. I stood up, my hands shaking, but my voice was steady. "I have something important to say," I began, as everyone in the room turned to look at me. I could feel all eyes on me, but I knew this had to be done. It's about Jerry and his mother, Janet, and how their actions have affected not just me and my son, but the whole family. Jerry looked shocked, and I could see the fear in his eyes as he tried to stop me. "Mary, let's not do this here," he said, trying to interrupt, but I didn't back down. "No," I replied, pulling out my phone. "This is not just a personal issue." I connected my phone to the Bluetooth speaker, and the room fell silent. The recordings began to play Janet's cold, controlling voice telling Jerry how to handle me, and Jerry's hesitant agreements. It was all there, plain as day, their plans to fix my behavior. The reactions in the room were immediate. Some people looked shocked, others disgusted. Jerry's aunt, who had always been kind to me, looked heartbroken. She turned to Janet, her voice shaking. "Is this true, Janet? Were you really forcing Jerry to do this?" Janet's face turned red with anger and fear. "These are taken out of context," she snapped, trying to defend herself. But it was too late. Jerry's cousin, who had been quietly observing until now, stood up. "No, they aren't out of context. We've seen signs of this for years, but we didn't want to believe it." That moment changed everything. Family members began to speak up, sharing their own experiences with Janet's controlling ways. Slowly, a picture emerged of a woman who had manipulated her family for years, hiding behind the role of a caring mother. Jerry sat there in silence, looking pale and overwhelmed, finally seeing the truth about his mother's control over his life. As the family meeting turned into a heated discussion about Janet's influence, I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. The truth was out. It wasn't just me who saw it now. Everyone in the room knew. The family, who had been under Janet's control for so long, finally saw her manipulations for what they were. After the confrontation, there was a quiet, somber feeling in the air. The family, long under Janet's influence, now had to come to terms with what had been going on for years. The shock was clear on their faces, and it was uncomfortable for everyone to realize how deeply Janet had affected their lives. For me, the decision to leave Jerry was painful, but it was also necessary. After everything that had happened, there was no going back. As the family began to leave, I gathered my son, who was blissfully unaware of the storm around him. With one last look at the family home, I stepped into the unknown, knowing I was doing the right thing for us. Jerry watched us leave, his face filled with sadness and regret. His voice, once so familiar, now felt distant as he whispered a weak goodbye. I didn't look back. Janet, on the other hand, faced a much harsher reality. The family she had controlled for so long now saw her for who she really was. They began to distance themselves, realizing how much harm her actions had caused. Her attempts to regain control went unheard. The evidence from the recordings and the testimonies at the gathering had been too much for anyone to ignore. In the weeks that followed, Jerry tried to reach out to me. His messages were full of apologies, promises of change, and pleas for forgiveness. But the memory of his raised hand and his mother's influence over him was too much to forget. The trust between us had been broken, and with it, our marriage. I knew then that this was the end of one chapter and the beginning of a new one. I wasn't just leaving a bad situation, I was starting a new life, one where I could be free from control and fear and focus on raising my son in a safe, loving environment. I found a new home in a small apartment, far away from the neighborhood I used to call home. It was a place where no one knew my story, and I could start over without the weight of the past following me. My friend Maria stayed by my side, helping me through this new chapter in life. I was grateful for her support as I figured out how to build a life that felt safe for both me and my son. My days were simple, but filled with purpose. I spent most of my time caring for my son and slowly putting the pieces of my life back together. The healing process wasn't easy, it was slow, and sometimes it hurt more than I expected. There were days when the weight of everything that had happened felt too heavy to bear. But the freedom to make my own choices, without fear of being controlled or manipulated, kept me going. It felt like a fresh start, a chance to live on my own terms. I started going to therapy, where I learned how to heal from the emotional wounds I carried. I also joined support groups for single mothers, and meeting others who had gone through similar experiences helped me feel less alone. Over time, the broken pieces of who I once was began to come back together. I wasn't the same person I had been before, though. I was stronger now, more resilient. I had learned how to stand up for myself and protect my son from anything that might harm us. My son's laughter became my anchor, pulling me through even the toughest days. Watching him grow and hit new milestones brought me so much joy, and each little moment gave me more hope for our future. As he learned to walk and talk, I felt my confidence growing, too. I was learning how to be a mother, how to build a safe and loving home, and how to live a life that was free from fear. Months passed, and before I knew it, a year had gone by. One evening, after putting my son to bed, I sat down in our cozy living room. It was filled with his drawings and toys, signs of the happy life we were building together. I couldn't help but think about how far we had come. The pain of the past was still there, like a shadow, but it wasn't as overwhelming as it had once been. The light of new beginnings was brighter, and the support of friends like Maria and the unconditional love of my son gave me strength. That night, as I sipped a cup of tea, I realized I was finally ready to share my story. I started a blog, a space where I could write about what I had been through. It wasn't just for me. It was also for others who might be going through similar struggles. I wanted to connect with people who were facing manipulation or abuse and let them know they weren't alone. Every blog post I wrote was a step away from the victim I used to be and a step closer to becoming someone who could help others. As I reflected on my journey, I realized I had grown into an advocate. I had found my voice, and I was using it to speak out against the kind of control and manipulation I had once lived under. My story was one of resilience, of finding strength in the face of hardship. Now, as I conclude my story, I want to leave you with a question to think about. Do you believe it's possible to fully break free from the control of a manipulative family? Or do the effects of those relationships stay with us forever? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going and support one another. My life is pretty normal for a young teacher. I'm Lily, and after working hard at a training college, I finally got a job at one of the best schools around. My plan was to teach, maybe do some writing on the side, and one day start a family with the right guy whenever he showed up. That part happened quicker than I thought, thanks to my college friend Nancy. Lily, you have to meet Charles, Nancy insisted one windy Monday afternoon over coffee. He's looking for something real, and you are too. I just have a good feeling about this. That evening, I met Charles at a local bar. He was easy to spot, taller than most people, with a loud laugh that filled the whole place. I was so nervous, fixing my hair over and over, but when he smiled, all my nerves disappeared. Hey, you must be Lily. Nancy hasn't stopped talking about you. No pressure, right? Charles joked as he pulled out a chair for me. Yeah, no pressure at all. I laughed as I sat down, thinking about how this one night could change my whole future. We hit it off right away. Charles worked in finance, not really my thing, but he made it sound exciting every time he talked about his day. He loved hiking, hated sushi, and had a soft spot for cheesy 90s movies. 5 years later, we were setting up our home together. The wedding was small, just close friends and family in a garden ceremony. It was perfect for us. Charles's mom, Karen, seemed nice enough. She was always polite and ready to help, so I thought things were off to a great start. Living together was easy at first. Charles was supportive, and we always had each other's backs. But then, the pressure started quietly at first, but soon it was constant. Lily, when are you two going to give me a grandchild? You know Charles is my only chance for this, Karen would casually say during her visits. It was like hearing the same thing over and over, each time more urgent. I tried to stay calm and keep the peace. We're working on it, Karen. These things take time, I'd say with a forced smile while chopping veggies or setting the table. After dinner one night, as we were cleaning up, Charles turned to me, and his expression softened.
Hey, sorry about Mom.
She's just excited. We're okay, right?
Charles asked.
Yeah, we're okay, I assured him, but deep down, I wondered how much longer we could handle the pressure before it started affecting us. Living under constant pressure to start a family felt like walking on eggshells, and Karen's reminders never seemed to stop. Each visit, she became more impatient, like sandpaper rubbing against my already worn nerves. One sunny Monday morning, Charles and I were enjoying a rare day off together. We were in the middle of a lazy breakfast when I saw Karen's car pull up. Even before she came inside, I knew we were in for another round of her questions about grandkids. "Morning, you two. I just came from Amanda's grandkids' christening. Adorable little thing. So, any news on my future grandchild?" Karen burst into the kitchen, full of expectations. Charles almost choked on his coffee, managing a polite, "Morning, Mom." I forced a smile and tried to stay calm. "Hi, Karen. We're just enjoying breakfast. Would you like some coffee?" I offered, hoping to change the subject.
No, I'm fine.
Just wanted to chat quickly. "Lily, you're not getting any younger, you know. Timing is everything. You should be more proactive, maybe see a doctor, or try those fertility treatments I was reading about," Karen said, her voice a mix of concern and urgency. I felt my face getting hot. "We're capable of handling it, Karen. We'll see a doctor if we feel it's necessary, not because we're on a deadline," I snapped, louder than I meant to. Under the table, Charles gently squeezed my hand, a silent request to stay calm. "Mom, it's our life. We'll take care of it. Let's not ruin a nice morning," Charles said, his voice firm but respectful. Karen let out a dramatic sigh, clearly frustrated. "I just want to see my grandkids while I'm still around to enjoy them." "Is that too much to ask? There's more to our lives than just having babies, Karen. We have our careers and our own plans," I started, but Charles squeezed my hand again, warning me to tread lightly. I know, but family is everything," Karen shot back, her words sharp as she grabbed her purse. "I'll leave you to your plans then, but just think about what I said, okay?" After she left, the tension hung in the air like a bad smell. Charles and I spent the rest of the morning in silence, both deep in thought. Karen's visits were turning into a battleground, and we always found ourselves on the defensive. That evening, we decided to take a walk to clear our heads. "She's my mom, and I love her, but I can't stand how she keeps pushing us. It's like she's checking off boxes on some life checklist," Charles said as we strolled through the park, letting out his frustration. "I understand she's excited, but it feels like she's more focused on being a grandma than caring about our happiness or health," I replied, feeling my frustration build up. "It's like we don't matter to her unless we have a grandchild." "We need to set boundaries, Lily," Charles said, his grip on my hand tightening as we walked back home. "Next time she brings it up, we have to be firm but clear." The reality of our situation hit me like a heavy weight in my stomach. Setting boundaries with Karen wasn't going to be easy, but it was necessary. I wasn't just fighting for our peace. I was fighting for our future, whatever it might hold. After all the stress and tense dinners, our biggest dream finally came true. I was pregnant. Charles and I were beyond happy, floating on a cloud of joy that felt almost unreal. But with our exciting news came Karen's overwhelming enthusiasm, now stronger than ever. We had just started working on the baby's room, painting the walls a soft, calming color and putting together a crib, which took way more patience than I thought I had. During one of those DIY afternoons, Karen showed up unannounced again. She was wearing a bright red t-shirt that said "Future Grandma" in big, bold letters. "Look at this. Isn't it cute?" Karen beamed, stretching the fabric for us to see. "I got it custom-made. Karen, could we maybe not announce it to everyone yet? We're still early on, and we're just trying to be cautious," I said as gently as I could, hoping to calm her excitement without starting an argument. "Oh, honey, when you've got news this good, you shout it from the rooftops. Everyone's thrilled for us." Karen's voice grew louder with each word, her excitement bubbling over like a pot left on the stove too long. The next few weeks were a blur of Karen's constant check-ins. She was always calling or dropping by, armed with old wives' tales about pregnancy do's and don'ts. She made sure I ate certain things and avoided others, fussing over my schedule and sleep. It was suffocating. "Karen, I really appreciate your help, but you hovering like this is stressing me out," I finally snapped one evening after her 10th lecture about the benefits of prenatal yoga. Even after that, the pressure didn't ease, and neither did my busy schedule. Balancing my teaching job with pregnancy wasn't easy, but I was determined to keep things as normal as possible. That was until one day at school, halfway through explaining a math problem to my fifth graders, I felt a sharp pain that stopped me mid-sentence. The room started spinning. The chalk slipped from my hand, and then everything went dark. I woke up in the hospital, the sharp smell of antiseptic filling my senses before I even opened my eyes. Charles was there, his face pale and tired, holding my hand tightly like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. "They had to do surgery," he whispered, his voice shaky. "It was serious, Lily. You almost didn't make it. We lost the baby." His words hit me like a punch, knocking the breath out of me. Tears poured down my face, bitter and uncontrollable. I was alive, but at what cost? The doctor came in, his expression serious as he adjusted his glasses. "Lily, I'm afraid the complications were severe. You won't be able to have children in the future." It was a very rare and unfortunate situation. The room suddenly felt colder, and the walls seemed to close in around me. I lay there, the weight of this new reality pressing heavily on my chest. Charles squeezed my hand, trying to offer some comfort in the overwhelming sea of grief I was drowning in. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, Karen burst into the room, her face full of anger and desperation. She didn't even pause to see how I was doing before she blurted out, "I heard what happened. So, when are you going to try again? We need to start planning." I was still hooked up to N4, the dull pain in my stomach a constant reminder of what I had lost. "Karen, I can't have children anymore." The surgery. My voice cracked as the reality hit me again, cold and hard. "What do you mean you can't?" "That's ridiculous," Karen snapped, her face turning red. She stormed out of the room, probably to find a doctor who would tell her something different, something that wasn't true. Charles held my hand tighter, his eyes full of silent apologies for his mother's behavior. Karen came back not long after, her anger even worse now that the doctors had confirmed my condition. "What did they say?" "This is absurd. You've taken away my chance to be a grandmother," she yelled, loud enough that a nurse peeked into the room, her eyes wide with concern. "Mom, please," Charles said, his voice firm but pleading. "This isn't helping. Lily needs to rest." "Rest? What she needs to do is think about her family. About us." "This is selfish," Karen said, her words cutting deep. I could barely hold it together. "I didn't choose this, Karen. Why can't you understand?" "I almost died," I said, my voice breaking with both pain and frustration. Karen's eyes narrowed. "If you had been more careful, this wouldn't have happened. You've always been too focused on your career. Maybe that's why." "Enough." Charles's voice filled the room, sharp and commanding.
Mom, leave. Now.
"We'll talk when you're ready to be reasonable." But Karen wasn't finished. She turned to me, her voice full of venom as she hissed, "You're not worthy of my son. You can't give him what he needs. You're not a real woman." Her words pierced through me, leaving a sting that would never fade. A tear slipped down my cheek, mixing with the bitterness of her cruel words. Charles practically had to drag her out, and I could still hear her protests echoing down the hallway. Recovery was slow, and when I finally returned home, the emptiness was unbearable. I tried going back to teaching, hoping the routine and the sound of children's laughter would help, but every joyful noise reminded me of what I had lost. Seeing a psychologist helped a bit. "You need to grieve, Lily, not just for your child, but for the life that's now behind you," Dr. Alexander said during one of our sessions. Her words, though meant to heal, also made the finality of my loss even more real. One day, during an especially tough week, I made a decision. "I can't teach right now," I admitted to Charles over a quiet dinner. "When I see the kids, I just see what I've lost. I'm thinking about working at the library. It's peaceful, quiet." So, I took a job at the local library, leaving the busy school hallways for the calm aisles filled with books and quiet visitors. It was a place where my heart could begin to heal, away from the prying eyes and constant expectations. Even though I had moved on to the peaceful life at the library, Karen's presence still hung over us. She wouldn't stop bringing up the topic of grandchildren, becoming more invasive and harsh with each passing day. As months went by, her accusations only grew sharper. On my birthday, a day I hoped would be light and free from pressure, Karen cornered me in the kitchen just as I was about to cut the cake. Her voice was low and full of venom. "When are you going to fix this, Lily? You need to give Charles children," she hissed. I froze, the knife trembling slightly in my hand. "Karen, Charles and I have been thinking about adoption. It's a beautiful way to build a family," I said, trying to keep my voice calm despite the storm inside me. "Adoption? Over my dead body." Karen exploded, her face twisting with disgust. "I won't have you bring some stranger's child into our family. Who knows what kind of sick, twisted genes they have. No grandchild of mine will come from someone who couldn't even keep them." Her hateful outburst echoed through the kitchen, and the living room fell into silence. I could feel everyone's eyes on us, their stares weighing me down like a heavy blanket. "That's enough, Karen," I snapped, letting the knife fall onto the counter with a clatter. I stood tall and faced her. "You don't get to decide how Charles and I build our family. This is our life, our choice," I said firmly. Karen's eyes narrowed, and with an angry huff, she stormed out of the kitchen, slamming the door so hard it made the windows shake. The room stayed silent, all the joy of the day gone with her. The discord Karen had planted grew quickly. At first, it was just subtle whispers, a look here, a nudge there suggesting I had been careless during my pregnancy. Then, the rumors turned into full-blown gossip, accusing me of drinking and behaving badly, which supposedly caused my miscarriage. The anger inside me built like a storm. One evening, after overhearing a particularly nasty version of the rumor from someone I thought was a friend, I decided I had enough. I called Karen. "Karen, this has to stop now," I said firmly. "Spreading lies about me is not just hurtful, it's slander. And I won't tolerate it anymore. If I hear one more rumor, I'm going to the police, and I'll sue you for libel." There was silence on the other end, a quiet moment that felt like the calm before a storm. Finally, she spoke, her voice low and lacking its usual fire. "You wouldn't dare.
Try me, Karen."
I'm done playing nice." After that call, the rumors stopped just as suddenly as they had started, but the damage was done. The relationship was strained, and family gatherings were now cold and formal, no matter how much we tried to pretend everything was fine. Life seemed to go back to normal, but everything had changed. Then, one morning, I opened my inbox to find an electronic postcard. The image showed a happy family, 2 parents with children playing around them, the perfect picture of happiness. But below it, in cruel, bold letters, were the words, "You will never be a mother." My heart sank, and a shiver ran down my spine. Who would send something so hateful? As if that wasn't bad enough, the attacks soon became physical. One afternoon, after returning from work, I found a box on our porch. Inside were dolls, smeared with ketchup, making it look grotesque. A note was attached, twisting the knife deeper. "This is your fault. You are to blame for losing your child." I was horrified. Each new message, each package, felt like a punch to my already fragile state. Tears became my constant companion as I struggled to understand the cruelty of these attacks. "Charles, look at this," I said one evening, handing him yet another horrible package. My hands were shaking, and my voice was barely a whisper. "It's too much. I can't take this anymore," I said, feeling completely overwhelmed. Charles acted quickly. "Our neighbor, Mr. George, has cameras everywhere. Maybe he caught something on video," he suggested. The next day, we approached Mr. George, who was more than happy to help. He played back the footage, and there, clear as day, was Karen, sneaking up to our door and leaving those awful packages. Seeing her do this was both a relief and a nightmare. "I can't believe Mom would go this far," Charles muttered, disgust all over his face. With the evidence in hand, we confronted Karen at her house. The video was paused on the laptop screen, showing her in the act of hatred. "Look at this, Mom. How could you?" Charles's voice was cold, his usual warmth gone. He pushed the laptop towards her, the hurt in his voice echoing around the room. Karen glanced at the screen, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then, without any hint of remorse, she shrugged. She's damaged goods, Charles. An inferior woman who can't continue the family line. I did what I had to do, for you, for the family's sake. Charles stepped in front of me, protective. If you can't accept Lily, then you can't be part of our lives. This is your last chance, Mom. Apologize or we're done. Karen's face hardened, her eyes cold. I'm only doing this for you, Charles. She's taking you away from what you deserve. The ride home was silent, both of us lost in thought. I was crushed, the weight of Karen's betrayal pressing heavily on me. Charles was furious, the bond with his mother stretched to its breaking point. In the days that followed, Charles became unusually quiet. His cheerful nature dimmed, the tension between him and his mother weighing on him. Despite everything, it was clear he missed her. So, when we received a Christmas invitation from Karen, I agreed to go for his sake, hoping for some sort of reconciliation. When we arrived, the house was full of relatives and friends, the smell of pine and mulled wine in the air. Karen greeted us with a tight smile, her eyes darting nervously. I took a deep breath and held onto Charles's arm as we moved through the crowd, trying to stay hopeful. At first, the evening went well, with laughter and conversation filling the room. But then, in the middle of the gathering, Charles's ex-fiancée, Angela, showed up. The room fell silent as Karen welcomed her in. As you all know, Lily can't have children, Karen began, her voice cold and cutting. So, I think it's time Charles reconsidered his options. Angela is more than willing to take her place and give me the grandchildren I deserve. Her cruel words echoed through the room, and the silence that followed was suffocating. I stood frozen, my heart pounding in my ears. Charles's voice, low and angry, broke the silence. Mom, what are you talking about? I didn't agree to any of this. I couldn't hold back any longer. How could you? I said, scanning the crowd, my voice trembling with emotion. Karen has been tormenting me, sending hateful messages, and leaving disturbing packages at our door. I pulled out my phone and showed the video from Mr. George's camera, the footage clearly showing Karen's awful actions. Gasps of shock and disgust filled the room. Angela, looking just as horrified, stepped forward. I had no idea about any of this, she said. Karen invited me here, saying we were just catching up. I'm actually engaged to someone else, and I don't want to interfere. I never wanted children, that's why Charles and I broke up. The room buzzed with whispers and stunned faces. Karen's friends and family began to leave, their expressions ranging from embarrassed to outraged. It was clear they sympathized with us. Karen, now pale and flustered, tried to defend herself. I was only trying to make sure my son had a proper family. Charles's voice was cold and final. By destroying the family you already had, I don't consider you my mother anymore. We're done. Months had passed since that disastrous Christmas, and life had finally started to settle into a peaceful rhythm. Charles and I were busy with the adoption process, focusing on the child who would soon join our family. It was a time of hope and healing, but it didn't take long for Karen to try and come back into our lives. One chilly morning, a knock at the door broke the quiet. When I opened it, there stood Karen, her eyes red, looking remorseful. Lily, I've been doing a lot of thinking, she began, her voice shaky. I know I've made terrible mistakes.
Can we talk?
I hesitated for a moment, then said, I'm listening, leaving the door slightly open but not inviting her in. I've been so foolish, she continued. I was so focused on my own desires that I lost sight of what really matters. I've hurt you and Charles deeply, and I'm truly sorry. Can we start over, please? Karen, after everything that's happened, it's not that simple, I replied. Charles and I are moving forward with adopting a child. That's our focus now. I spoke with a firm voice, reflecting the resolve I felt in my heart. The mention of adoption seemed to trigger something in Karen, her face twisting as her old prejudices resurfaced. You can't seriously be thinking of bringing someone else's child into this family.
It's wrong, she snapped.
That's exactly what we're doing, Karen, and it's not your decision. It's ours. I shot back, my patience wearing thin. This is madness, Lily. You're making a mistake. A real family. No, Karen, we're done here, I interrupted, and without waiting for her response, I closed the door firmly in her face. The click of the latch sounded like the final end of our relationship. Inside, Charles stood at the top of the stairs, having heard the entire exchange. "Everything okay?" he asked as he walked down to join me. "I think it finally is," I said, leaning into his embrace. "I told her we're adopting and she didn't take it well. But it's really over this time." Charles nodded, his face set with determination. "Let's make it official then." Together, we blocked Karen's number on our phones and sent messages to our friends and family, explaining that we had decided to cut ties with her for the sake of our future family's peace and well-being. The adoption process moved forward, and with each step came a new sense of excitement and anticipation. We filled out forms, attended interviews, and prepared a room filled with love, ready for the new beginnings that awaited us. As the waiting period came to an end, I felt drawn back to my old life in the classroom. I returned to teaching, and the joy of being around children once again lit up a part of me that had dimmed during those dark times. Standing in front of my class, I realized how much I had grown, how resilient I had become. The laughter of the children echoed through the halls, a sweet sound that filled the empty spaces left by lost dreams. It reminded me that when some doors close, others open, and behind this new door was a future filled with hope and the laughter of a child who would soon call us Mom and Dad. I don't need to be a daughter who is seen as a failure. My family left me behind the day I graduated from middle school. When I got home, the house was completely empty. After some time, I finally reached my mom on the phone. She, along with my dad and sister Evelyn, just laughed at how I reacted. It turns out they decided to move to Washington without me because Evelyn got accepted by a modeling agency. Evelyn is going to be the top model in the country, but what about me, Mary? What am I going to be? I have only one leg. Does that mean I'm worthless? I was in despair for a while, but being abandoned by my family gave me freedom. One day, I'll make them regret leaving me behind. My name is Mary Jackson, and I'm 27 years old now. I live with my grandparents on my dad's side.
Here you go, Grandpa.
I fixed the button on your shirt, I said. Thanks, Mary. You're really good at sewing. I can't even thread a needle anymore, Grandpa replied. It's okay. You can leave everything to me, I said, smiling. My grandparents always say how dependable I am, but fixing a shirt button is easy. I want them to rely on me for everything because they mean the world to me. They are the ones who saved me when my parents didn't care. My earliest memory is feeling strange about not having a leg. I lost my left leg below the knee when I was 4. I barely remember it, but the pain and the injections still give me shivers. What hurt more than the physical pain was being left alone in the hospital. Mom didn't come today either. Will she come tomorrow? I would ask the nurse, and she would give me a weak smile. She'll surely come on Friday, the nurse would say, trying to comfort me. But Friday never came, and my mom never showed up. The kind nurse's comforting words just made me feel worse as a child. Most kids my age were always running around and full of energy, but I had to live a quieter life for a while. Still, by the time I started elementary school, I was walking normally again with a prosthetic leg. I sometimes had to sit out during gym class, but I could climb stairs and run a little. It didn't affect my daily life much. I wasn't treated differently at school, and I had friends. I loved being at school. I wished I could stay there forever, because it was my escape. I didn't feel like I belonged at home. I tried on my new dress and asked, "How do I look?"
Cute.
My sister Evelyn, who's 3 years older than me, twirled around in her frilly skirt. It spread out like a flower. "Evelyn, you're so cute. Just like a model," my mom said, showering her with praise. My dad took pictures of her from all different angles. Evelyn lifted her chin like she was used to all the attention. Evelyn looks good in anything. I want to buy her lots of clothes. Maybe she'll be a model one day. Look how long her legs are, my mom said, putting her hands on her cheeks and swaying. My dad nodded eagerly. They were completely obsessed with Evelyn. At 15 years old, I was the only one who felt out of place at home. Yeah, I do have long legs, don't I? I think they're longer than my friends, Evelyn said proudly. Yes, yes, Evelyn's legs are the longest, my mom said. It's a shame how quickly you grow out of your cute clothes. Evelyn put her finger to her lips and smiled. Normally, clothes that Evelyn outgrew would be passed down to me, but I wasn't treated the same. Mary isn't normal, though, my mom said, her voice changing. They were so excited about Evelyn, but then they'd look at me with pity. Was there some family rule to put me down at least once a day? By the time I turned 15, I accepted it. But when I was younger, it made me sad and angry. Evelyn always wore pretty skirts like a doll, while I was stuck in baggy pants. My gray or black sweatpants looked like pajamas no matter what. And, to make it worse, my tops were always t-shirts with hoodies. I want to wear a cute skirt too, I told my mom one day. She looked at me, shocked. What? That's not going to happen. Your leg isn't normal. You can't show it off. Wouldn't you be embarrassed if people saw it? I'm not embarrassed. All my friends know about my leg, I replied. Well, it embarrasses me, so stop asking, she said coldly. If you can't wear skirts, at least let me wear cool jeans, I begged. Jeans? The fabric is too tough. It would be hard for you to wear. I buy you soft pants because I care about you. Can't you see that? And besides, jeans are expensive, she explained. But you buy so many clothes for Evelyn, I pointed out. I bought you a leg, didn't I? My mom said. I'm spending money on something no one else needs, and you still want more clothes for Evelyn? A leg for you, does that sound strange? Hey, does that sound strange? Under the pressure, I shook my head. My mom muttered more complaints. Your leg was expensive, you know. I'm paying for something you shouldn't even need, giving you a luxury, and yet you still want more. You're such a greedy child. Don't make things harder for your mother. The next day, Evelyn came home from the mall with our dad, carrying new clothes and showing off in front of the mirror. Meanwhile, I was stuck wearing the same plain sweatpants, whether I was sleeping or going out. I always wanted to dress up, and that didn't change, even when I reached middle school. In fact, I was looking forward to wearing my school uniform, but instead, I ended up going to school in my regular sweatpants. It seemed my mom had spoken to the school, claiming she was worried about me. My kind mom managed to make me look like a helpless child. When uniforms were required, I had to wear boy pants. It was convenient that the boy next door, Kyle, had just graduated, so I got his hand-me-downs. Whether it was because the uniform was available or because my mom wanted to hide my leg, I couldn't figure out her reasons. By this point, I wasn't even sad anymore. I just thought, oh, so this is how it is. As if it didn't matter. Evelyn's dream of becoming a model grew stronger. She would post pictures online with captions like "Sweets and me" or "Blue sky and me," then smirk at how many likes she got. She often made me take her photos, handing me her phone like I was her servant. I'd be in trouble if I refused, so I eventually stopped saying no. But Evelyn was very picky, making me retake the photos over and over, which was exhausting. This one looks good. The angle from below makes my legs look super long. This is perfect, she'd say, then suddenly shout. Wait, hold on. No way, Mary. You're in the reflection of the window. Evelyn immediately deleted all the photos. That was close. It would be a disaster if people knew I had a sister like you. You showing up in my photo is so inconsiderate. You're not supposed to be seen by anyone. Think about your place, she scolded. After helping her with the photos, that's how she treated me. I didn't have the energy to argue back anymore. I just took in all her insults, knowing I wasn't needed in that house. I always felt like I was just in the way. I knew that all too well, so I tried to avoid causing any problems for my parents or Evelyn and lived like I was invisible. But never in my wildest dreams did I think they would abandon me right after I graduated from middle school. When I got home after the graduation ceremony, the house was a mess. Clothes and random things like a spatula were scattered on the floor, but the TV, refrigerator, and Evelyn's mirror were gone. It looked like no one had ever lived there. Mom, are you here? I called out. She had come to the graduation ceremony, but it felt like she was just going through the motions. I was the only one there whose parents didn't show any real interest. I thought maybe she had other things to do, but when I left the house that morning, she had just been lying in bed, so it was clear my graduation didn't matter to her. The strange state of the house sent a chill down my spine. I didn't care about the empty rooms. I only cared about whether my mom was okay. Could something have happened to her? A burglary, maybe? My mind jumped to the worst possibilities. Even though my mom didn't care much about me, I was worried about her. I searched the whole house, bedroom, bathroom, balcony, but she wasn't there. I tried calling her phone, but it didn't connect. Then I called my dad, but all I got was his voicemail. I started panicking, calling my mom over and over again. Finally, the ringing stopped, and I heard my mom's voice, though she sounded irritated. I was so relieved, I almost cried. "Mom, you finally answered. I'm so glad you're okay. Are you all right?" "Huh," she replied, confused. I quickly explained what I saw when I came home, and then, out of nowhere, she started laughing. "What are you even talking about?" "There was no burglar," she said. "How do you know that?" I asked. "Of course, we know because we moved out." What? I hadn't realized it until then, but the noise in the background sounded busy, like they were somewhere else. I could hear Evelyn and my dad laughing, too. "Hey, Mom, what's Mary saying?" Evelyn asked. "She's panicking, thinking there was a break-in," Mom answered, still laughing.
See?
"I told you we should have left a note." Poor Mary. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mom, Evelyn, and my dad were all cheerful, like it was just another day. "Hey, Mary, we're moving to Washington." "Do you know why?" my mom asked. I didn't answer, because I had no idea. "Guess what? I'm going to become a model," Evelyn announced. She had passed an audition for a modeling agency, and my family, excluding me, decided to move to Washington. "Mary just graduated from middle school, so she'll be fine on her own, right?" my mom continued. "We could have moved earlier, but we waited until today for your sake. You get that we were being kind, don't you? They took care of me until I finished middle school, but now they were leaving me behind without a second thought. I wanted to go to school, but I had to figure out the money by myself. Finding a job at that moment seemed impossible. My mom taunted me with a cheerful voice. "Well, try to figure it out on your own." I was frozen, still holding the phone to my ear, when she delivered the final blow. "Evelyn is going to be the #1 model in the USA, and Mary, what will you become? We don't need a failed daughter." Then she hung up. It felt horrible, impossible. I wanted to scream, "Help me, don't leave me." I thought about calling her back to beg, but I stopped myself. She wouldn't listen anyway. I was just 15, fresh out of middle school, and now I had to live on my own. Could my teachers help me if I asked? No, that would only bother them. Then I thought of my grandparents. They lived in the same city, but I hadn't seen them in 15 years. My mom always spoke badly about them, calling them terrible people who made her life hard. I wasn't sure if they would even take me in, but they were the only family I had left. Still wearing my middle school uniform, with a flower pin for my graduation, I took the bus to my grandparents' house, barely remembering what they looked like. When I arrived, my grandma opened the door. "Mary, is that you? You've grown so much." "I've missed you," she said with tears in her eyes, hugging me tightly. I had prepared myself to meet mean people, but all the tension left my body, and I started crying. Emotions I didn't even realize I had came pouring out as I collapsed at the entrance. I told my grandparents everything, sobbing uncontrollably. My grandma's face was full of sadness, not knowing what to say, while my grandpa gently patted my shoulder. "It's okay, you don't need to worry," he said softly. They weren't the bad people I had imagined. In that moment, I was saved by them, the only ones who cared. "Mary, you're not a failure. You're just a normal girl. Don't be afraid, live the way you want to," they told me. Since that day, I've been living with my grandparents. They've never told me no whenever I ask them for advice. They always say, "Give it a try." For the first time, I wore a knee-length skirt that fluttered as I walked. "Mary, you look lovely. It suits you," my grandma said with a smile. I felt a mix of shyness and joy. That was the first time I realized how much happiness wearing clothes I liked could bring me. My grandparents accepted me no matter what. When I dyed my hair blonde, my grandpa just smiled and said, It looks good on you. When I bought pants with holes in the knees, my grandma worried and added little patches to cover them. I secretly cried because I had saved up for my part-time job to buy a sewing machine. But on Christmas morning, I woke up to find a high-end sewing machine next to my pillow. I was so surprised that Santa Claus came for me at my age. These are some of my most precious memories. Living without restrictions, I went on to attend fashion school after graduating from high school. While I was still in school, I launched my own brand. I designed the cute skirts and cool denim pants I had always dreamed of. My designs focus not only on style but also on inclusivity clothes that anyone can wear comfortably, regardless of age, health, or physical limitations. Now, at 27, my work is going well, and I feel like I'm living a fulfilling life. But everything suddenly changed when I heard a familiar voice. "Mary, long time no see," my mother said, arms open as if waiting for a hug. She was standing in front of my company. I stepped back, but she quickly moved closer. My father was also there, scratching his head and smiling awkwardly. "Wow, Mary, I didn't think you'd make it this far. This is your company, right? That's amazing. I always knew you'd become someone great." It had been 15 years since my family abandoned me. I wasn't expecting a heartwarming reunion. The reason they were here now was obvious. Recently, I was interviewed on TV about my company. The focus was on my products, but my parents were more interested in the fact that I was the CEO. "Really amazing, Mary. I saw you on TV and immediately looked up everything about you. Your company's sales are $800 million. Does that mean you're a billionaire now?" "Wow, I'm so proud of you," my mother said excitedly, grabbing my hand. "We've moved back from Washington. Let's live together again," she added, narrowing her eyes as if she were being kind. But despite the warmth she tried to show, I felt nothing but chills. I tilted my head slightly and said, "Excuse me, but I don't have a mother."
What?
"Mary?" she asked, looking shocked. Trying not to sound too serious, I smiled and replied, 15 years ago, my family, my mother, father, and sister abandoned me. So, I don't have a mother." Over the years, when friends or others asked about my family, I always smiled and acted like everything was fine. If I told the truth that my family left me on the day of my middle school graduation, people would just feel sorry for me. So I never let anyone know the full story. "I don't care about the past," I said calmly. "Are you still angry, Mary? Holding a grudge over something that happened 15 years ago?" my mother asked, trying to laugh it off. "You're surprisingly vindictive." I kept my polite smile. "It's been 15 years. I'm not angry anymore. I just don't care about people who don't matter to me." My mother's face twitched, and her eyes widened. It's funny how, when you become successful or get rich, suddenly more relatives appear. Like flies swarming around money, they need to be dealt with. Looking at the woman in front of me, I couldn't even be sure she was really my mother. After 15 years, she looked so different from the woman in my memories. "Come on, Mary. We're family. We have a bond that can't be broken," she said, rolling her eyes before grabbing my hand again. "I can't say much about family because my memory of it has faded." "But you're not my mother," I replied, still calm. Her grip on my hand tightened, but I didn't flinch. "My mother isn't an old woman with wrinkles like you," I added, not breaking my expression. Her hand jerked away, and she quickly covered her face. My sister had gone to Washington to become a model, and I remember my mother always taking care of her looks, obsessed with skincare. Even though 15 years had passed, a woman in her 60s shouldn't look like this. "No offense, but aren't you in your 80s? I asked. She let out a small cry, her face twisting as more wrinkles deepened. The sight was like something out of a fairy tale, like a wicked old woman. Even though I was treating her like a stranger, part of me knew she still had traces of the mother I once knew. But it was true, she looked much older than she should. Her face was covered in wrinkles, and her cheeks sagged like a bulldog's. Her hair was streaked with gray, dry, and frizzy. She wasn't just thin. She looked starved. The fingers that had gripped my hand earlier felt like dried-up twigs. "You ungrateful child," she snapped. "After everything I did for you, giving birth to you, raising you, and this is how you repay me?" I I'm your mother. Shouldn't a daughter show some respect? She lunged at me, her desperation clear. It was obvious she was struggling in life. Respect? I asked quietly, watching her carefully. Her lips twisted into a smile. You're a CEO now, right? It's only natural for you to support your family, she said. Yes, I'll support my important family, I replied, easily shaking off her frail hand. But my family only includes my grandparents. What? She gasped. The rest of my family abandoned me, I said, walking away. I have no obligation to help you, right? I said calmly. But you have money. Don't be mean. I'm not asking for your whole fortune, just about $30,000, my mother pleaded, clinging to me desperately. Her tone softened as she tried to get through to me, her eyes filling with tears. Look, Mary, I'm in trouble. Life in Washington is tough with the high cost of living. I've had to borrow some money. Can't you help me? We're family, aren't we? She begged, tears streaming down her face. But the sight of an old woman pleading didn't touch my heart. I was getting tired of dealing with her when I saw 3 figures approaching behind her. My mother turned around, and her face twisted in annoyance. What do you want now? She spat, glaring at my grandparents. Is it wrong for a mother to visit her daughter? She asked, trying to defend herself. Yes, it is, my grandpa replied sharply, without hesitation. You've got some nerve showing up after abandoning your daughter. You said she was no longer needed, right? You threw her away like trash, and now you're begging that same trash for help. How pathetic. Mind your own business, my mother snapped. Grandpa smirked. The trash you threw away turned out to be a diamond, didn't it? How ironic. My mother bit her lip as Grandpa's words stung. She had always painted my grandparents as the villains, but after living with them for 15 years, I knew they were nothing like she had said. Even though Grandpa was angry now, he never spoke ill of my parents, even after they abandoned me. Trying to ease the tension, my grandma spoke gently. We've heard that you've been going to relatives, asking for money. Are you struggling financially? My mother's face flushed with embarrassment. She pressed her lips together and muttered, Yes, that's right. I have no money. Then, as if something snapped inside her, she shouted, I have no money. And it's all because of Evelyn. Hatred flashed across her face as she spoke about the daughter she once adored. We spoiled her. But for what? Nothing. All for nothing. She just spends money on clothes and makeup, never landing any modeling jobs. She's useless. My mother's frustration boiled over as she stomped her foot, her behavior shocking me. I could hardly believe what I was seeing. Suddenly, something large burst out from behind a tree, and for a second, I thought it was a wild animal. My heart nearly stopped, but then I realized it was Evelyn. Hold on, Mom, Evelyn yelled, storming over. I won't stand by and let you insult me like this. I'm cute. I'm more beautiful than anyone, Evelyn said, her voice full of the same confidence she had 15 years ago. But the truth was, she had no job, and all she did was spend money without contributing anything. That's because people don't appreciate my charm, she shot back, then added, and don't lie, Mom. I've done some modeling jobs before. Evelyn wasn't completely wrong. Even though I had moved on with my life, I couldn't help but check her social media from time to time. Her posts were full of glamorous photos, which only made me feel worse every time I looked. But I couldn't stop, even though it added to my misery. Then I noticed something strange. Her posts had almost no likes or comments. She only had 5 followers, which was fewer than my own old, forgotten account. The few comments she did have felt kind of mean, and when I checked out those accounts, it became clear they were making fun of her. No experience, but she acts like a pro. Spends hours demanding reshoots because the photos don't capture her charm. No wonder she doesn't get modeling jobs. Who would want to work with her? One comment read, What do they know? What's wrong with being picky when I'm a professional? Evelyn snapped, clearly frustrated. But the truth was, she wasn't getting any modeling jobs, and it was obvious why. I looked closely at her now. Her face was overly bright, her eyes seemed too large, her lips too pink, and her chin too pointed. The Evelyn standing in front of me looked nothing like the person on her social media. It was all built on lies and fake appearances. I'm different from those other models, she said proudly. I don't need surgery or fake compliments. I'm a real model. I don't suck up to people for jobs like those other girls. I'd rather stay out of that ridiculous world. Despite being disowned by our mother, Evelyn's confidence was still strong. In a strange way, I kind of admired her for it. Who would have thought that Mary would become a CEO of an apparel brand? Maybe you want me to be your model, huh? Is that it? She asked, smiling confidently. I don't usually work with family, but if you insist, I might just consider it. Her positive attitude was probably because our parents spoiled her so much. She was the complete opposite of me. I had always been the one looking down, unsure of myself. I wasn't sure if I envied her or not. You as our model? Well, it depends on the terms, I replied. I might even sign an exclusive contract. Oh, really? She said, perking up. But there's one thing, I continued. Our brand values a natural vibe. We showcase people as they really are, without edits. So it might be difficult for you. What? Evelyn's eyes widened in shock. I've seen your Instagram, I said. The you on there and the real you, they're completely different. Modeling without edits. Are you serious? Evelyn gasped. Her eyes opened so wide that her fake eyelashes fell off, and the makeup on her face started cracking, like porcelain. I'm not going to give you money or use you as a model. You abandoned me, so please leave me alone, I said clearly, then turned my back on them. Evelyn muttered in a trembling voice, Who do you think you are? I already knew they would show up. Evelyn had posted about it on social media, claiming, I'll be the exclusive model for some company, and when I go back to my hometown, everyone keeps looking at me. Can they tell I'm a model just by my aura? Her posts were so embarrassing to read, but they were helpful for keeping track of what they were up to. Knowing my parents might visit, I was prepared and ready to handle it without getting upset. As I was leaving with my grandparents, my father, who had been silent like he wasn't even there, suddenly stepped forward with a grin. Mary, I didn't do anything bad to you. I was just a victim, scared of your strong-willed mother and Evelyn. I've always been worried about you deep down. That counts, right? His words caught me off guard, and I hesitated for a moment. Then he turned to my grandparents, apologizing seriously. Dad, Mom, thank you for taking care of Mary. She's my precious daughter, and you've protected her. But from now on, I'll be the one supporting her. My grandparents looked surprised. But before anyone could respond, my mother shouted in anger. You might as well have not been there at all, so just stay quiet. She was right. Her words snapped me back to reality. Aren't you also to blame for doing nothing, Dad? What? No, that's not fair. It was Evelyn and your mother who were hostile. Don't lump me in with them, he protested, trying to win me over. His attempt to act innocent was disgusting. I realized I felt nothing toward him. He was just someone whose presence or absence didn't matter. He wasn't needed in my life. Don't start acting like a father now. Mary doesn't need you, my grandpa said, voicing exactly what I was feeling. Looking embarrassed, my father tried to fade back into the background, a role he had always played well. But my mother, still hopeful, reached out to me weakly. Her older appearance made her look pitiful, a tactic she likely used to gain sympathy. Mary, I'm really sorry.
It was all my fault.
You've always lived without complaining, being such a good and admirable child. I thought you didn't need my help because you seemed so strong, she said softly, her words filled with regret. I realize now the truly precious daughter wasn't Evelyn, it was you, my mother said, her tearful eyes fixed on me. Evelyn might have passed the audition for the modeling agency, but instead of making money, she ended up paying them for entry fees and lessons. Could she have been tricked? My mother wondered aloud. Your father even quit his job to move to Washington to support her, but there were prettier girls everywhere. Evelyn becoming a model was never really possible. As I stayed silent, my mother kept talking. But you, Mary, you're a CEO. How wonderful. You're my daughter, and I'm so proud. The more she praised me, the colder I felt. But wasn't I the daughter you didn't need? I asked. Oh, did I say something like that? She said, pretending she didn't remember. Before she could continue, my grandpa cut in. It's rich for you to say that. Considering you're the one who caused Mary to lose her leg, he said. My mother flinched.
What?
That was an accident. I confused the gas pedal with the brake, she said defensively. I didn't mean to. I drove into Mary while she was playing in the yard. It was a miracle she survived. That was decades ago. Why bring it up now? You've blamed me enough for that. Are you still trying to torment me? She snapped, showing no remorse. Even after all these years, she still wouldn't admit fault. It wasn't about me, was it? It was always about you, I said quietly. I have no memory of that time, but now I understand. This leg, it's because of you, Mom. It wasn't because I hated you, she cried. It was an accident. The guilt made me harsh toward you, Mary. That's all. That horrible accident, it's haunted me. She broke down crying, acting like the victim. But I wasn't moved. I'm the one who should be crying, I said, my voice firm. You couldn't admit your mistake. Instead of apologizing, you just made everything worse. Me, a failure?
No, Mom.
You're the real failure. Don't ever show your face to me again. My mother's dramatic crying stopped, and she stared at me in shock. Grandpa chuckled softly. How does it feel to be called a failure by your own daughter? He asked, smiling. My mother shook with anger and sadness, but no words came out. Grandpa turned to me, his face kind.
Come on, Mary.
We're going to be late for our lunch reservation. Let's go enjoy that French cuisine. My family now is only my grandparents. After that incident, Evelyn somehow became a bit of a celebrity. Her social media suddenly gained more likes and comments. It turns out someone had recorded our argument and posted it online. The clip showed Evelyn and my mother berating me, and it sparked a flood of criticism against them. Evelyn must be thrilled she finally achieved her dream of fame. It was all a misunderstanding, Mary. Please explain, she and my mother begged me. But the more they tried to argue online, the worse it got for them. Mary, you have to help us, they pleaded. There's nothing I can do, I replied with false humility. I'm just the trash you threw away, remember? No matter how hard they tried, nothing worked. Eventually, they gave up, switching from begging to screaming in frustration. I was done with them. I increased security at my company to make sure I wouldn't run into them again. At first, Evelyn, always so positive, tried to take advantage of the attention. She filled her social media with selfies, hoping to turn the critics into fans. But, as expected, it didn't work. The comment sections were full of harsh remarks, and even Evelyn's upbeat attitude couldn't handle it. After a few sad posts, Evelyn stopped updating altogether. I don't know what happened to Evelyn, or my mother after that. Oh, and my father? I almost forgot, he's just as irrelevant. This encounter with my parents made me even more grateful for my grandparents. Grandpa, Grandma, thank you, I said, feeling a bit shy as I expressed my gratitude. Grandma took my hand and smiled. It's normal for grandparents to love their grandchild. Thanks to them, I've been able to live a normal life. Children should always be spoiled by their grandparents. I'm already 27, you know, I said, laughing. To us, you will always be our baby, Mary. Age and social status don't matter. You can always be yourself with us, Grandma said warmly. And with them, I knew that was true. My name is Joyce, and I'm 28 years old. I currently work as a software developer in Queens, a city that feels like a world away from where I grew up. The journey to independence wasn't easy, but it all started with my escape from my mother's controlling grasp. To understand where I am now, it's important to know where I came from. I grew up in a small town near San Jose, living under the strict rule of my mother, Lauren. My childhood was far from the carefree experience most kids have. From the time I could remember, my mother controlled every part of my life. There was no such thing as pocket money, no sleepovers with friends, and definitely no room for disobedience. If I did something she didn't approve of, the punishment was harsh. Sometimes she would withhold dinner. Other times, she would take away the few things I loved. The freedom I saw other kids enjoying felt like something completely out of reach for me. Even though I did well in school, my mother was always there, pushing me toward the choices she thought were best for me. She even decided which college I would attend, insisting it was the perfect fit for my future, despite what I wanted. I dreamed of going to school in a lively city, but she insisted I attend a smaller college close to home. It felt like she would never let me out from under her control, no matter how much I wanted to break free. College, however, was where I first caught a glimpse of the freedom I craved. For the first time, I was able to make some decisions on my own. And after graduation, I grabbed the chance to move to Queens. I got a job at a well-known tech company, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was living for myself. I found a small but cozy apartment not too far from downtown. It wasn't much, but it was mine, and that little space felt like a fortress of independence. Life in Queens was a refreshing change. I took delight in the simplest things: walking to work, choosing my own groceries, and deciding my own schedule. Those small freedoms meant the world to me after years of being under my mother's thumb. For the first few months, everything felt perfect. But then strange things started happening. It was subtle, at first random phone calls with no one on the other end, odd messages that didn't make sense. Nothing concrete, but enough to make me uneasy. I tried to brush it off, telling myself I was just being paranoid after years of overcontrol. Then one evening, there was a knock on my door. It was my neighbor, Mr. Paul. He's a graphic designer, a bit older than me, with a kind and gentle demeanor. He's always been polite whenever we crossed paths. "Joyce, can I talk to you for a minute?" he asked, his voice carrying a tone of concern. "Sure, Mr. Paul. What's going on?" I replied, feeling a small knot of anxiety form in my stomach. Doing my best to hide the nervousness creeping into my voice. Mr. Paul looked genuinely worried. "I just saw someone acting suspiciously near your apartment," he said, his brow furrowed. "I thought you should know. They might be trying to get inside." My heart started pounding. I hadn't noticed anything strange myself, but the thought of someone trying to break in made my stomach churn. "Are you sure?" I asked, trying to sound calm. "It could have been someone just passing by." "I'm positive," he insisted, his tone firm. "I think you should check it out." With my mind racing, I unlocked my apartment door and stepped inside. At first glance, everything seemed normal, but my anxiety was through the roof. Just as I was about to take a deep breath and relax, something caught my eye: a purse sitting on the table. It wasn't mine. I knew that instantly. It was a sleek, expensive designer purse, the kind I would never buy for myself. It looked so out of place in my apartment. Panic gripped me as I quickly thought about calling the police, but then something stopped me. Inside the purse, I noticed a folded note. My hands trembled as I reached for it, my heart racing even faster. Slowly, I unfolded the note, and my breath caught in my throat as I read the words. "I'm sorry, Joyce. I had to come. I've been watching you. I needed to know if you were okay." It was from my mother. I stared at the note in disbelief. My mother, Lauren, had been in my apartment. My emotions flipped from shock to anger in an instant. How had she found me here? How long had she been watching me? I felt a surge of betrayal course through me. My mind was swirling with questions when I remembered the purse. It had been a gift from her, one of the many gifts she had sent me over the years. At the time, I hadn't thought much of it, but now it all made sense. She must have hidden a tracking device inside the purse. All this time, she had been monitoring my every move without my knowledge. I felt sick. I turned to Mr. Paul, who had followed me inside. His face showed nothing but sympathy as he realized what had happened. "My mother," I began, my voice shaky. "She's been tracking me. She must have put a device in this purse. I can't believe she would invade my privacy like this." Mr. Paul's expression softened, and he gently placed a hand on my shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Joyce. That's a huge violation of your trust. You don't deserve this." Tears welled up in my eyes, but I blinked them away. "I need to confront her," I said, my voice gaining strength despite the turmoil I felt inside. "She has no right to do this to me." In that moment, I knew I had to act quickly. This wasn't just a minor breach of trust. It was a pivotal moment. I had spent years trying to escape my mother's control, and now I was faced with the ultimate test. Would I let her continue to manipulate me, or would I finally stand up for myself and take full control of my life? A mixture of fear and determination filled me as I started making plans to confront her. I knew it wouldn't be easy. Facing my mother would be one of the hardest things I had ever done, but I had no choice. If I wanted to be truly free, I had to break away from her influence once and for all. The freedom I had worked so hard to build in Queens suddenly felt like it was slipping away, but I wasn't going to let that happen. This was my life now, and I needed to protect it. The discovery of the hidden tracking device had shaken me to my core, but it also strengthened my resolve. This was my chance to take control of my future, no more living in her shadow. With every passing moment, my anger and resolve grew stronger. I had escaped her once, and I was determined to do it again, this time for good. I couldn't believe Lauren had crossed such a line. My life in Queens was supposed to be my escape, my chance to finally breathe freely, far away from her overbearing control. But now, with her tracking me, it was clear that I was still tied to her in ways I hadn't even realized. Her presence felt like a cold shadow, reminding me that no matter how far I ran, she was always pulling the strings. The next day, I gathered all my courage and made my way to the address she had listed. She wasn't staying in some grand place, just a small, run-down apartment not far from where I had grown up. It wasn't luxurious, but it was enough for her. As I approached the door, my heart pounded in my chest. Every step felt heavy, burdened by years of frustration and pent-up anger. When I finally knocked, the silence that followed felt like an eternity. Then, after what seemed like forever, the door creaked open. "Joyce," she said softly, her voice carrying a mix of surprise and guilt. "I wasn't expecting you." I stepped inside, barely able to contain my anger. "You weren't expecting me?" I said, my voice sharp. "You've been tracking me with a hidden device, and now you're surprised?" Her face paled, and she shifted uncomfortably. "I just wanted to make sure you were safe," she stammered. "I didn't mean to invade my privacy." I cut her off, my voice trembling with fury. "You've been following my every move, Mom. This isn't about safety. This is about control. You've never let me live my own life." Her eyes filled with tears, but she remained defensive. "I've done it all for you," she insisted, her voice shaky. "I was just trying to keep you close, to help you." "Help me?" I nearly shouted, my frustration boiling over. "By suffocating me? By deciding everything for me?"
I'm 28, Mom.
I'm an adult. I need to live my own life. Tears began streaming down her face, but the walls she had built around herself remained firm. "I'm sorry, Joyce," she whispered. "I didn't know how to let go. I've made mistakes, but I didn't know how to fix them." I stared at her, my emotions swirling in a confusing mix of pity and frustration. "You're not just apologizing for tracking me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You need to understand how deep your control has gone. It's not just this one thing, it's everything." And that's when she revealed something I hadn't expected. "I've been struggling financially," she confessed, her voice barely audible. "I wanted to ask you for help, but I didn't know how." Her words hit me like a punch in the gut. "You were going to ask me for money after spying on me?" I asked, disbelief and anger swirling inside me. Lauren nodded, her eyes filled with shame. "I've been in debt," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've spent more than I should have, and I thought maybe if I kept an eye on you, I could figure out a way to fix things." A cold rage built inside me. "You've been spying on me to figure out how to get money from me?" I said, my voice icy. "That's despicable. You've manipulated and controlled me for years, and now you want to use your invasion of my privacy to solve your own problems." She tried to reach out to me, her hands trembling. "Joyce, please," she begged. "I didn't mean for things to get this way." I took a step back, feeling the weight of everything crashing down on me. All the years of control, all the time she had made me feel small and powerless, it was all coming to a head now. I wanted to scream, to yell, to make her understand the damage she had done. But instead, all I could feel was a deep, aching sadness. "This isn't just about the money, Mom," I said quietly, my voice strained. "It's about the way you've treated me, the way you've never let me be my own person. You don't understand what you've done to me." Lauren stood there, tears streaming down her face, but I could see that the defensive wall she had always kept up was starting to crumble. For the first time, I saw her not as the controlling figure who had dominated my life, but as someone who was deeply flawed and lost in her own way. Yet, despite that, I knew I couldn't let her continue to manipulate me. "I need space," I said finally, my voice firm. "I need to figure out my life without you constantly hovering over me. I can't keep living like this." She nodded, her face crumpled with regret, but I could tell she didn't know how to fix what she had broken. And maybe she never would. As I walked out of that apartment, a weight lifted off my shoulders. It wasn't easy, but I knew this was the first real step toward reclaiming my life. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally breaking free from the grip she had held on me for so many years. This wasn't just about privacy or money, it was about my future, and I was ready to take control of it once and for all. "I'm sorry." My mother's words felt hollow, like she was saying them out of habit, not because she truly meant them. I shook my head, feeling the weight of the years of manipulation pressing down on me. "I can't do this anymore, Mom," I said firmly, my voice trembling with emotion. "I can't keep letting you control my life, even from a distance." Leaving her apartment, a flood of emotions overwhelmed me: sadness, anger, and a strong sense of determination. I knew deep down that the only way to truly reclaim my life was to cut all ties with her. This wasn't just about the tracking device or her attempt to ask for money. It was about breaking free from years of emotional control, from a childhood and adulthood shaped by her manipulations. As soon as I got back to my apartment, I sprang into action. I knew that if I didn't make changes now, I would never break free from her hold. The first thing I did was get a new phone. I didn't trust that my current number or device hadn't been compromised in some way. I also installed additional security measures throughout my apartment: new locks, cameras, anything that could prevent another invasion of my privacy. I wasn't taking any chances. I then made a bigger decision. It was time to leave this apartment and find a new place to live, somewhere far away from her reach. I started looking for a new place that would give me the fresh start I needed, but it didn't end there. I contacted a lawyer to begin the process of legally separating myself from her. I needed to take every step necessary to make sure she had no control over any part of my life, even legally. Each of these steps filled me with both relief and heartache. I had longed for this freedom for so many years, but now that I was finally taking the steps to claim it, the cost was higher than I'd expected. It wasn't just about moving on from my mother's control, it was about rebuilding myself. I had to rediscover who I was outside of her influence, to find my own sense of autonomy and self-worth. As I began packing up my belongings and preparing for the move, Mr. Paul became a surprising source of support. He offered to help with the logistics and, more importantly, he provided a kind ear during some of my toughest days. We spent more time together, and his steady presence became a small comfort in the middle of the chaos I was navigating. I hadn't expected to rely on him, but his kindness made everything a little more bearable. However, the battle was far from over. The more I distanced myself from Lauren, the more I realized just how deeply her manipulation had affected me. It wasn't just about what she had done recently. Her influence had shaped the way I viewed relationships and trust in general. I was beginning to see how her actions had controlled every aspect of my life, from the smallest decisions to the biggest moments. Confronting my mother was only the first step. I knew I had a long journey of self-discovery and healing ahead of me. It was daunting, but at the same time, I knew it was necessary. For years, I had been living in the shadow of her control, and now I was finally stepping out of it. The struggle for my independence had only just begun, and I had to prepare myself for the challenges that lay ahead. In the days following my confrontation with Lauren, everything became a blur of activity and emotions. I finally moved into a new apartment, far from the small town near San Jose, where I had spent my childhood. My new place felt like a fresh start. It was modern and bright, with big windows that let in streams of natural light, a stark contrast to the cramped spaces I had known before. It was the kind of place where I could begin to feel like I had control over my own life, where I could breathe freely without the weight of my past pressing down on me. But even as I settled into my new surroundings, the emotional burden of everything that had happened still lingered. Moving into this beautiful apartment was a huge step forward, but the scars from years of manipulation didn't just vanish. I knew it would take time to heal. The path to independence wasn't just about changing my location, it was about changing my mindset, letting go of the emotional chains that had bound me for so long. With each passing day, I felt a little stronger, a little more sure of myself. I was finally carving out my own life, on my own terms. And even though the road ahead was still filled with challenges, I knew that I had taken the first step toward true freedom. This was the beginning of my journey, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control of my own story. I had lived in cramped, small spaces before, but this new apartment felt like a whole new world. As I unpacked my belongings, I was filled with a strange mix of excitement and apprehension. There was something soothing about the process of unpacking, giving me the chance to reflect on everything I had been through. But as I pulled out each item from the boxes, I was reminded of how deeply Lauren had intruded into every corner of my life. Her control had seeped into everything, even the smallest parts of who I was. The legal separation from my mother was a huge step forward. It was both liberating and painful. On one hand, it freed me from the emotional chains that had held me captive for so long. But on the other, it was the final cut in our already complicated and strained relationship. The lawyer assured me it was a standard procedure, but to me, it felt like closing a chapter one had struggled with for years. This was the definitive end I hadn't been able to bring myself to make before. Throughout this difficult time, Mr. Paul was always there. His presence was a quiet comfort in my life. He helped me with a move and offered me a steady shoulder to lean on when the emotions became too heavy to bear alone. We'd often spend the evenings in my new apartment, talking about everything and nothing. His calm, kind nature was such a welcome contrast to the turmoil I had been through. In those moments, I was reminded that not everyone in my life wanted to control me. One evening, as we sat in the cozy living room of my new apartment, Mr. Paul brought up a topic I had been avoiding. "You've been through a lot lately," he said gently. "How are you really holding up?" I took a moment to glance around the room. The empty spaces reminded me of all the things I had left behind, both physical and emotional. "It's been a whirlwind," I admitted. "I feel like I'm finally starting to breathe again, but it's hard. It's hard to let go of everything that happened." He nodded, his expression full of understanding. "It's a lot to process, but you're doing really well. Look at this new place. You're making changes and taking control of your life."
His words struck a chord with me.
It was such a relief to talk to someone who wasn't trying to manipulate or control me. Mr. Paul's support had been more meaningful than I could have ever anticipated. He helped me see that even amidst all the upheaval, there was a positive side to all of it. This was my fresh start. As the weeks passed, I began settling into a routine in my new apartment. I threw myself into personal projects I had neglected for years, things that made me happy and allowed me to finally express myself without fear of judgment or control. I also began to reconnect with old friends, people I had lost touch with during the years of isolation under my mother's influence. Their support and understanding were a welcome comfort during this time of transition. Despite all the positive steps I was taking, the shadow of my past still lingered. I would occasionally receive messages from Lauren, pleading for forgiveness or asking for updates about my life. Each time, I felt a pang of guilt, but I knew responding to her would only pull me back into the chaos I had fought so hard to escape. I had to stay strong and remember that cutting ties with her was the best thing for my future, no matter how difficult it was. One day, as I was preparing dinner in my apartment, Mr. Paul came over to help. We were casually chatting about my new job when, out of nowhere, he asked, "Do you ever think about what's next for you? Beyond just getting away from all of this?" I paused, the question catching me off guard. I hadn't thought much beyond escaping my mother's control. "I'm still figuring that out," I admitted. "I've been so focused on just getting away from my mother and her control that I haven't really thought about what comes after." Mr. Paul smiled softly. "That's understandable. But now that you've taken such a huge step, You've got all the freedom to think about what you want for your future." His words stayed with me long after that conversation. I had spent so much of my life just trying to break free, trying to get out from under the weight of Lauren's control, that I had never truly allowed myself to dream about what came next. Now, for the first time, I was in a position to do that. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be bumps, and there would be moments when I questioned everything. But I was finally in control of my own life, and that was something worth celebrating. The new apartment wasn't just a place to live, it was a symbol of everything I had worked for, of the independence I had fought so hard to achieve. As I stood in my new space, looking out at the city beyond, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I was finally free to live my life on my own terms. The future was wide open, and for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where it would take me. I hadn't really thought much about what I wanted my life to look like now. Mr. Paul smiled gently and said, "It might be worth thinking about what you want for yourself, not just what you're trying to escape. You've made such a big step, so what do you see for your future?" His words struck a chord with me. I realized I had been so focused on getting away from my past that I hadn't spent any time thinking about what I wanted moving forward. The idea of building a future based on my own choices was both exciting and a little scary. That evening, sitting alone in my new apartment, I started to think about the future. I thought about the kind of life I wanted to create, not just one without my mother's control, but one that was positive and meaningful. It felt like a new kind of freedom, one that came with its own challenges but also the chance for growth. I was beginning to understand that reclaiming my life meant more than just leaving my past behind. It was about building something new for myself. And while I knew the journey wasn't over, I felt a sense of hope and possibility that I hadn't felt in a long time. As the weeks turned into months, I began to feel cautiously optimistic. My new apartment was starting to feel like home, and I had settled into a routine. I had been focusing on my personal growth and reconnecting with old friends. But there was still one thing left unfinished. My final confrontation with Lauren. One afternoon, as I was enjoying a quiet cup of coffee, I got another message from her. It was similar to the others, asking for forgiveness and hinting at her financial struggles. I stared at the message, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. It was clear she still wanted to reach out, but I had made up my mind. I couldn't let her back into my life. By this time, Mr. Paul had become more than just a supportive neighbor. He was now a true friend. We had regular conversations, and I found myself opening up to him in ways I hadn't expected. One evening, while we were cooking dinner together, I decided to tell him about the message. "I got another message from Lauren today," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "She's still asking for money and saying she's sorry. I don't know what to do." Mr. Paul looked up from the stove, concern written on his face. "You've already done so much to protect yourself. Maybe it's time to think about what's best for your own peace of mind." I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and hesitation.
I've been thinking about that.
I know I need to completely let go, but part of me still feels responsible. He placed a hand on my shoulder gently. "It's normal to feel that way, but remember, you've done all you can. Sometimes letting go is the hardest, but also the most important step." The next day, I woke up knowing that I had made my decision. I made up my mind and wrote a final letter to Lauren, clearly setting my boundaries. In the letter, I told her that I wouldn't respond to her messages anymore and that any attempts to contact me would be ignored. It was a firm but respectful goodbye. As I sealed the envelope, I felt a mix of sadness and relief. It marked the end of a difficult chapter in my life, but it also showed my commitment to moving forward without letting the past weigh me down. 10 days later, I had another heartfelt conversation with Mr. Paul. We were sitting in the park, enjoying the cool autumn breeze. He was quietly watching the leaves change colors when he turned to me with a thoughtful look. "Joyce, you've been through so much, and I'm really proud of how far you've come," he said softly. "But I've also noticed something else. There's a light in you now that wasn't there before. You seem more at peace." I smiled, feeling a warmth inside that I hadn't felt in a long time. "Thank you. It's been a long journey, but I think I'm finally starting to find my way. I'm learning to focus on what I want, not just what I've been running from." Mr. Paul smiled back, his eyes full of kindness. It's wonderful to see you like this. And I'm here for you, whatever you need. His words stayed with me long after we said goodbye. I felt a new sense of hope and determination. For the first time in years, I was beginning to picture a future that was truly mine, built on my own dreams and goals. As the year came to an end, I took some time to think about all the changes I had made. My life was still a work in progress, but I no longer felt trapped by my past or by my mother's control. I was learning to make my own decisions and embrace the possibilities ahead of me. One evening, while sitting by my apartment window, watching the city lights, I thought about everything I had gone through. I felt both proud and relieved to know I had come out stronger on the other side. There was still some uncertainty about the future, but there was also the exciting promise of new beginnings. In the end, breaking free from my mother's influence wasn't just about gaining independence, it was about finding my own path and having the courage to walk it. As I looked toward the future, I felt at peace knowing that, for the first time in a long while, I was truly in control of my own life. My name is Isabella, and I'm 27 years old. I work in a creative role at a software company in Florida. On the outside, it might look like I have an easy life, but things at home are quite messy. A year ago, my dad's company went bankrupt without warning. Since then, I had to move back to my hometown to live with my parents and my sister, Mary. Our family depends on my income to keep going. One evening, my mom started a conversation while we were sitting around. "Isabella, Mary says she wants pork steaks for dinner tomorrow." I sighed quietly and replied, "Oh, and we're running out of money for groceries. We can't even afford pork. Can you help out a bit more with the food budget?" I frowned and said, "We're already out of food money, and it's not even the middle of the month yet." That's when Mary chimed in, "Big sis, you're not giving enough money for food." I was shocked. "What do you mean? I'm already giving $10,000. That should be more than enough." Mary snorted, "Big sis, prices are higher now. $10,000 isn't enough for a family of 4 anymore." I couldn't hold back my frustration. "Just $10,000? If you have a problem with it, why don't you get a job and help pay for the food yourself?" Mom jumped in, taking Mary's side. "It's hard to find a job. I feel bad for Mary." I couldn't help but feel bitter. Mary uses her so-called job search as an excuse, but the truth is, she's just sitting around doing nothing. Plus, the money I give is secretly being passed to Mary as pocket money by my mom. "Enough," I finally said. "If it's so hard to manage, why don't we sell this house and move back to Grandma's hometown? Maybe we could find jobs there and life wouldn't be so tough." But Mom shut that idea down right away. "No way, I'm not going back to that town. My grandma owns a successful Italian restaurant in Miami where we could work and we'd have free pizza and pasta to eat. Life would definitely be easier. But Grandma is really strict, especially when it comes to making pizza. My mom hates this and doesn't want to deal with the hard work of making pizza. My dad always says, 'Why are we so quick to ask Grandma for help when we're supposed to be supporting ourselves?' That's just being spoiled." I wanted to scream inside. How can they say I'm spoiled when I'm the one paying for everything and my sister doesn't even want to work? Mary should get a part-time job, too. She's 25 and lots of people work part-time while looking for a full-time job. I suggested this, but my mom was quick to argue. "No, Mary helps around the house, so she doesn't have time for a part-time job." What? That made no sense to me.
What are you talking about?
"I've never seen Mary do any housework," my dad jumped in. "Mary carries the dishes to the sink after meals, and she does her own laundry. Sometimes, she even gives me shoulder massages." I could feel myself getting angry. The housework my dad mentioned is stuff even a little kid could do. Meanwhile, I wake up early every morning to make breakfast for the whole family and pack my dad's lunch. On top of that, I'm the one managing the household finances and taking care of the taxes. But still, my parents always favor Mary. They've treated her better than me since we were kids. People say I'm pretty too, but Mary has always been considered more graceful and charming. That's why our parents have always treated her specially. You'd think I'd just leave this situation, but it's complicated and I can't move out easily. So I live with this stress every day. One day, time passed, and I didn't realize my sister had left the house. I thought she had just gone out like usual. But then the next day and the day after that, she was nowhere to be found. I started to get suspicious. Then, as I came home and was heading to my room, I overheard my parents talking in the living room. What I heard shocked me. I can't wait for the souvenirs from Louisiana. Mary is really lucky right now, relaxing on the beautiful beaches and eating at fancy restaurants, my mom said. I want to go to Louisiana too. Maybe we should all go together next time, my dad added. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Wait, what are you talking about? Are you saying Mary is in Louisiana right now? I asked, confused. My parents looked at me, surprised. Yes, that's right, they said. I couldn't believe it. But how? She doesn't have any money. I've even been holding back from shopping or going out to save. Oh, she won a trip in a sweepstakes, my mom explained. Mary's always been lucky with stuff like that. Apparently, Mary had won a trip to Louisiana, and I had no idea. Surprised, I decided to just accept their explanation for now. But the next day, while I was at work, I got a call from a credit card company that I wasn't expecting. I don't usually use my credit card much, so when the company called to inform me of high charges over the past 4 days, I was shocked. I couldn't remember making any big purchases. Feeling nervous, I asked how much had been spent, and the customer support agent told me it was $20,000 over 4 days. Right away, I knew who was behind it. It had to be my sister, Mary, enjoying her trip to Louisiana. She may have won the hotel stay and plane tickets, but she still needed money for souvenirs and other things. Determined to find out the truth, I called her. What's going on? Explain yourself, I said. Oh, I'm surprised you called, sis. I thought you were waiting for your souvenirs, Mary joked. Stop messing around. You've been using my credit card without asking, haven't you? She didn't even seem to care. Did you notice? It was an accident, she said casually, and my anger grew. I regretted not realizing sooner that someone had gone through my stuff. What were you thinking? Using someone's credit card without permission is a crime. It might be a problem if it was someone else's, but we're family, Isabella. You should really study up on these things, she replied. How could you spend $20,000 in just 4 days? That's a crazy amount of money. Well, besides the free flight and hotel, I had to pay for all the other activities, shopping, and meals. I went to fancy restaurants, bought some branded stuff, and took taxis. Before I knew it, I spent over $20,000. Spending that much money is just not okay, Mary. What were you thinking? Why are you so mad? I used the card because it was going to expire soon. That's all, sis. I'll leave the bill to you, she said cheerfully, then hung up the phone. I was left speechless. The whole thing was so sudden. After that, Mary kept trying to contact me, but I ignored her. Eventually, she left a message on my voicemail saying, I guess I really messed up this time. I'm so foolish. I couldn't help but laugh at how casual she was about it. Later that evening, when I got home, my parents rushed to greet me. Welcome back, they said. How can you act so calm? Mary's in a tough spot, my mom added. Why did you stop the card? She's in trouble. So what? She used my card without permission, so of course I stopped it, I replied. As soon as the credit card company called, and I noticed the charges I didn't recognize, I canceled the card right away. Apparently, Mary tried to use the card after it was blocked and panicked when it didn't work. She then took out her frustration on me, but since I kept ignoring her, she finally turned to our parents for help. Your sister's in trouble in another country, and you're not going to do anything? Are you still saying that? Just because we're family doesn't mean it's okay to use someone's card to blow $20,000. I don't think you should be so heartless, my mom said. How can you be so cold? It's because of your attitude that you never get to go on trips. Mary planned to buy us souvenirs with a card, so what's the big deal? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You two are unbelievable. How can you think that way? Are you sleep-talking during the day? You should be thinking clearly. She's out there enjoying herself and thinking of us, and you still want me to be thoughtful. Thoughtful? Can you still say that after hearing this? I pulled out my phone and played the voicemail my sister had left me. Mary's voice came through loud and clear. Make the card usable. You miser. Our parents' cards are maxed out and I can't use them. You're being so cheap, not even giving me pocket money for this trip. How useless can they be? After hearing Mary's angry message, my parents went silent. Their anger quickly faded, and they rushed to their room to check their credit cards. A few minutes later, I heard them screaming in panic. When I went to check on them, their faces were red with anger. I can't believe Mary used my card without asking after everything we've done for her, my dad said, furious. She even took the bank book and our cards. I feel so betrayed. Oh, I responded coldly. Wasn't it supposed to be a kind act from Mary to buy you souvenirs? You said she was thinking of us and trying to have fun for our sake, right? Yeah, that's what we thought, but our money is still safe, right? My mom muttered, unsure. When I saw how quickly their attitudes changed once they realized their money was still safe, I couldn't hide my disappointment. Well then, why don't you just raise the card limit and pay off the balance so she can use it again? Let the kind Mary who is trying to buy you souvenirs have it. That's not possible, my mom said. We don't have any savings left. What are we going to do? Mary stuck out there with no money for food or anything. After the chaos, my dad suddenly turned to me. Isabella, please. We'll start fresh. We promise to work together to support this family. Please help Mary. What are you talking about? Does that include me now? I asked sarcastically. Moved by my dad's words, my mom knelt down in front of me. I was shocked for a moment, but then I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. It's a little late for apologies now, I said. But my mom continued, pleading with me earnestly. I swear I will change. I will do my best to support everyone from now on. I won't wrong you or her ever again. Despite everything, I couldn't stop laughing at the absurdity of the situation. As my parents went back to their room, I quietly took out my credit card, still unsure of what to do next. I had secretly discovered a credit card that still had a valid expiration date and hadn't been used. So I suggested, why don't you give this card to Mary and take a family trip together? My parents were thrilled by the idea. They immediately contacted my sister, and they all began to excitedly prepare for the trip. I even booked their flights to Louisiana online while watching them with a smile. After everything was set, I made a call to a certain number. 5 days later, when my parents and sister returned from Louisiana, Mary greeted me with, "Big sis, thank you for letting us enjoy Louisiana. It's rare for you to come pick us up. Are you expecting souvenirs?" Sorry, I didn't buy anything. It was clear they had a great time and had already forgotten to be thankful for my help. Seeing this, I knew it was time to put my plan into action. I could barely contain my excitement. Looks like you had a lot of fun. Was that the last big moment of your life? What do you mean by last? Mary asked, confused. Well, I've decided to sell the house, I said casually. I've already sent our belongings to the new place, and someone's coming to pick us up. My parents and sister were completely shocked. They noticed the for sale sign at the entrance of her home.
What?
What is this? Did you really sell the house?
What's going on? They demanded.
Facing their astonished faces, I explained further. Actually, a real estate agent I know from university was interested in this land for a while and had been asking to buy the house and land together. I always said no because I thought keeping the house made sense. But I recently changed my mind. I realized that selling this house and living on my own again would give me financial and mental freedom. My parents protested. You can't sell the house on your own. It's illegal. This house belongs to Dad, not you. Staying calm, I replied, Oh, you seem pretty upset about it. But what if I told you the house and land are actually in my name? What? They exclaimed in disbelief. Dad, do you remember when you couldn't pay the taxes and came to me for help? I agreed to pay on the condition that we change the house's ownership to my name. You signed the papers back then, remember? Dad's face fell as the memory came rushing back. Ah, that's right. I continued explaining. I didn't leave this house because it was already in my name. I was waiting for the right time to get you all out so I could sell it. It was tough to find an opportunity since you were always home. But when I sent you to Louisiana, I finally had my chance. With everyone out of the house, I could go ahead and sell it. Everyone was in shock. What? they gasped. As I mentioned earlier, I continued calmly, your luggage has already been sent to the new place, so don't worry. The pickup will arrive soon. Pickup? What do you mean? My mom asked, still confused. Grandma is waiting for everyone. She's excited to see you, I said with a smile. Wait, Grandma? You mean Mom? My dad asked, his voice shaky. Yep, I talked to her, and she agreed to take everyone in. She's eager to knock some sense into you. She even told me to send your luggage. So, get ready for daily pizza making and cleaning at Grandma's restaurant. My parents and Mary were stunned. We can't go to Grandma's. We don't want to. Mary cried out. Oh, I see. Well, you can do whatever you like, but without a house or jobs, how do you plan to live? And don't forget about the credit card bill. How are you going to pay it off? What are you talking about? My mom asked nervously. The card is in your name. You thought it was in my name? You should be more careful. The card is actually in someone else's name, I said. No way. My mom's face went pale as she took out the card and checked the name. Her eyes widened. Wait, this card is in Mary's name?
Exactly.
The credit card I gave you was one I found in Mary's room. It was the first card she got when she started working, but she quit that job soon after. It seems she never used it.
What?
I've spent too much. What should I do now? My mom panicked. Well, since Mary's name is on the card, she has no choice but to pay it off. And you'll all need to work hard at Grandma's to cover your stay, without causing any trouble. Mary resisted until the very end, but our parents, seeing no other option, stayed silent and waited for Grandma's arrival. When she came, they all headed to her house and restaurant in Miami. Under Grandma's strict supervision, and with the help of her veteran employees, they learned to work hard, even shedding tears along the way. The $230,000 that had been charged to my card was eventually paid back to me by Mary, under Grandma's watchful eye. Although I had planned to settle everything by selling the house, Grandma managed to recover the living expenses I had previously covered and even took a portion of my parents' salaries to pay me back. Later, I moved into an apartment closer to my job and was able to live alone again. My new life was going smoothly, and I started enjoying peaceful days. One evening, as I stood on my balcony, looking down at the city as the sun set, I felt a sense of relief from the pressure I had carried for so long. There was also a small feeling of loneliness. Just then, my phone rang, and I hesitated when I saw Grandma's name on the screen. Hello, Grandma, I answered, and she asked how I was doing. Yes, I'm fine, I replied. That's good, she said. Actually, I wanted to talk about Mary and your parents. They're starting to change, especially Mary. She's now helping a lot with the work. Your parents are also beginning to reflect on things. Grandma continued, Isabella, I know it's been hard for you. I think I understand how you feel. Family can sometimes feel like a burden, but it's also something we should support. I hope you'll be able to forgive them someday. I listened to Grandma's words. I could hear the hesitation and worry in her voice, but there was also a strong sense of determination. There's no rush, she said gently. Take your time and think it over when you're ready. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I understand, Grandma. I'll take my time and think about everything, I replied, and then I quietly hung up the phone. As I gazed out at the city, the sun dipped below the horizon, and the darkness of night slowly covered the skyline. A mix of emotions churned inside me. I still felt anger and sadness, but there was also a tiny spark of hope for the future. When I returned to my room, my eyes were drawn to an old family photo. In it, a young Mary and I smiled alongside our parents. Seeing those happy faces, I couldn't help but remember the joyful days we had shared in the past. I thought if only we could go back to those times. But reality quickly brought me back. As time passed, my life began to settle into a comfortable rhythm. At work, I was given the responsibility of leading a new project, and in my personal life, I started to feel more fulfilled. One evening, after wrapping up the day's work, my phone rang again. This time, it was an unknown number. I hesitated but decided to answer. Hello, this is Isabella. It's me, Mary, came a voice that was different from her usual confident and arrogant tone. It was softer, more unsure. Surprised, I asked, Mary, what's going on? Did something happen? Sorry for calling out of the blue, actually, she started to say. I want to meet you in person. I want to talk to you, Mary said softly. Her voice had a humility and growth that I never expected from her. Why do you want to meet? I asked quietly, waiting for her answer. Mary's voice, though shaky, was calm and sincere, showing how much she had changed. Big sis, I want to apologize from the bottom of my heart. I felt that a phone call wouldn't fully express how I feel. That's why I want to see you in person, to truly and sincerely say I'm sorry. I could hear how genuine she was. Without interrupting, I listened quietly. If it's too hard for you to meet me, that's okay. I just want to respect how you feel, Mary continued. After a moment of silence, I finally responded. All right, let's meet next Sunday at 3 p.m. at the cafe near the station. Really? That makes me so happy. Thank you, big sis, Mary replied, sounding relieved. After I hung up the phone, I took a deep breath to gather my thoughts. I wasn't sure if meeting her was the right decision, but deep down, I hoped that it might lead to something positive. On the day we were supposed to meet, I arrived at the cafe earlier than planned. As I sat there, my heart was racing, and I felt a mix of nervousness and anticipation. The clock seemed to move slowly, but eventually, the door to the cafe opened and Mary walked in. She looked different. Her face was free of makeup, her clothes were simple, and most of all, her eyes showed real change. She walked up to my table slowly and began apologizing right away. Big sis, I am truly, truly sorry. In that moment, I could feel the change in her, and for a second, I wasn't sure how to respond. Mary, I began, but she kept talking, holding back tears. Working at Grandma's place made me realize how much I relied on you. I took you for granted all these years. I finally understand how hard it's been for you, always putting us first and never thinking about yourself. Tears streamed down her face as she reflected on her past actions and repeatedly apologized from the heart. Mary told me how much she had leaned on me before and the lessons she had learned while working at Grandma's. She opened up about her relationships with our parents and how much she had grown. I sat quietly, listening to Mary's words. With each sentence, the anger and sadness I had held onto for so long started to fade away. As she continued talking, I could feel the heavy emotions inside me begin to lift. Thank you, Mary. I've taken your words to heart, I said. After that, we spent several hours talking about different things what had been happening in our lives and the challenges we were facing. This open conversation felt like an important step in rebuilding our relationship. As we were about to leave, Mary handed me an envelope full of gratitude. Inside was money she had earned by working hard at Grandma's house. This is just the beginning, but I'll keep doing my best, she said. As I took the envelope, I could feel how much she had grown, and it warmed my heart. Months later, I visited Grandma's house again and met my parents there. This time, they gave me sincere apologies, and I could see they had changed just like Mary. That evening, we all sat down for a family meal, something we hadn't done in a long time. I felt the warmth of being with family again. I knew I couldn't forgive everything right away, but seeing my family's efforts to change gave me hope for the future. Before I left, Grandma shared some wise words with me. Isabella, you've grown strong, but as important as that strength is, don't forget the kindness you still carry. That's the most important thing. When Grandma hugged me, I couldn't hold back my emotions and started to cry. I felt like this was the beginning of a new chapter with my family, and the weight on my heart started to lift.